Okay, preliminary announcements. I see some of you I saw one of the things out there that Munhall, for populations of 10,000 and over, was ranked as of 2017 was ranked the safest community in Pennsylvania. So I want to applaud our police department on that. Make that happen for us. We did order a banner. I have it back here. I'm not displaying it, but I'm going to put it up at Community Day on Saturday's Community Day. We'll have a banner up there. Any other preliminary announcements? Okay, seeing no others, we have our guest here, TK Architect, Felix Cardella. And Felix is going to review for us the 1900 West Street Borough Building renovations. Mr. Covington.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
I just want to explain the approach for the second study that we did. We looked at the existing building this time and as much as possible trying to compare it apples to apples with the first report that we had looked at in the previous month. So what we did is we took the same program that we had analyzed and put together with the various department meetings and groups, the mayor, and spent, again, a considerable amount of emphasis on the police department with the greatest need for space and improvement to provide the necessary public safety. The way I proceeded with this was I looked at it in terms of in this building what's available to maximize that to the greatest degree, to fit in as much as we could, and then look at what's left in the space that was required to give us a current up-to-date facility and see what we would have to add to this building to equal the spaces that we had in the previous scheme. So I took the basement plan that we had developed for the former Willis building and placed it in the basement level of this building, and likewise did the same thing on the first floor and worked it from the far end of the building where the police are now into the building and fit in the spaces for all the departments and levels in that manner. So basically what we tried to do was after looking at the space available in this building, we determined that to meet the program, we had to add new extensions on both the west, I'm going to call it west, only because we're looking at this, the plan view is normally done with north up, but we had the record drawings from the drawing archives we got from the borough. It had it kind of reversed, so we kept it that way. So we're calling the left end, when you look at the front, I think we've indicated it's the west addition. So that would be this end, and then the east being where the fire department is in terms of how we identify it. If you're looking at the site, at the overall site here, I'm sorry everybody can't see this. I'll do it this way, then I'll turn it around. The brown in the middle outline is the existing building. So we utilize the existing building fully, not including the clock tower upper levels. And then the blue is the addition we had to put on to provide the balance of the space for the police. And the red represents, in the area now that is the driveway, where the trucks turn around and back into the garage, is an addition that we did on that end for the fire department. A new garage there, closer to the street, with what we believe is easier backing, and it frees up space in the existing building to fit everybody else in. So the fire department addition in red is just one story, because we didn't want to introduce the loading of the fire trucks onto a basement level. It would get very expensive, and it wasn't necessary to fit everybody else in. We found other ways to accommodate the rest of the program. And then the police is actually 2 stories in the sense that it's a basement and a first floor. And you can get into the back side from the driveway in the rear, and that's where the sally port is for bringing in the suspects and having them in a secure, enclosed space to offload and process the prisoners. So, and then we needed a foundation there anyway, so what we did is, when we put that addition to the police department on that end of the building, it takes away about half the squad parking. So we put it in the basement, the balance of it in the basement as garage parking inside. In that sense, it's somewhat similar to the parking we had under the overhang in the other building, and the sally port, which was done underneath the existing overhang also. And then the last thing that we did was looking at fitting everybody else in, and I can show you the spaces on the larger plans. We had to add a second floor light steel addition to take care of the rest of the administrative space. So it would expand out over top of the lower level police department. The way we fit everybody else into the existing building is, when we cleared out the existing fire department garage, we proposed moving this council chamber to the ground floor, to the tall garage space, refinish everything, a larger room, get you additional seating, and updated council chambers with 10-foot ceilings, and the other main thing that we're achieving by doing that is it's completely accessible directly in from the sidewalk. No elevators or stairs necessary to get to it from the street level and parking lots. With that, there's in the report, I don't have a diagram of this, but it's available for everybody to see. But you can see kind of the hierarchy of, in this volumetric study, the fire department on the far end, the police department here, how it flows under the building in blue on 2 levels, the admin up on the 2nd story addition, and then all other departments are in yellow, council chambers on the 1st floor in orange. So that's how that works in terms of the 3D. That's the 3D model in your book that you have. That study there, showing different departments. The other thing that we did is to create the basement level to be usable, to be office space and or support space for the departments. We found 4 different levels down there, and they vary approximately, there's a difference down there of up to 4 feet 6 inches up and down, stairs all over the place. They're probably 10 different sets of stairs there, and it's completely unworkable in terms of accessibility and just flow of movement to be usable space. So our design approach there was to remove the floor slab in the high areas, excavate down to one level of 84 is the level that we're shooting for. And that's represented on this drawing here, going back to this. That's represented here with the blue line. And you can see the dotted lines are all the other levels that are there now. They step up and down. So we would take down the high areas of the basement and create this single level for everybody to use on that lower level in the existing building. I didn't get a chance to go to show you this. Everybody else was seeing this, but the police, fire department, the existing building, and the second floor in purple there for the admin up on the second floor. And this being the new accessible entrance into the council chambers. So, looking at that on the basement level, here's what we find. The blue's the police again, and the fire hall and support space for the firemen, lockers, bathrooms, department storage is in red. This white area here is the unexcavated area under the new garage. So we left the fire hall and support spaces alone on the basement level, and basically to fit the police in, very similar footprint to what we did in the other building. It takes the entire basement. And it creates the same spaces we did in the other job: sally port, locker room, men's locker, shower, fitness room, day room for the officers to go to court, fitness in the center here, women's locker, toilet room, evidence, from the sally port in, the holding cells, interrogation room, and the five holding cells plus the juvenile detention area. So the left side here is where you pull in beside the sally port for the balance of the cars that were lost upstairs in the basement level. Moving up to the so this is what we're talking about in terms of the police fit all the way over to the existing fire department in red. Up to the first floor, what we have is, again, starting at the end of the new addition, we work our way in the darker blue for the office space, squad room, sergeants, the archive and active record storage, detective's office, mayor's office, clerk dispatch, and the public way. Yellow is the main entrance here with the circulation corridor down the center, new bathrooms with the fixture count required by the county plumbing code. And then centrally located is the tax office. And on this new sidewalk level entry, you come into the garage space and you have the council chambers with the same size as we had provided in the other building. And a little lobby space in front of that, and the executive board room directly across from that. So again, this was what we came up with, working from the police end across, squad, detectives, storage. Clerk, dispatch, public waiting, mayors across, tax office in the middle, and then the new circulation and restrooms, council chambers then off this sidewalk level entry here. To make this work, once you get inside the building, we added a second elevator at the end near the council chambers. That's here. So that it has front and rear opening. You can come in from the street level and go up from the council side and then be on the admin or tax office and police public waiting access up on the upper level quarter. So it's a 4-foot difference in floor elevation. And that floor is there now. That's the garage floor of the existing fire station. The other elevator would be upgraded and extended down to the basement where it does not land at the basement now. We would modernize it, put new equipment in it, and have it have 3 stops. And it would be devoted entirely for police use unless there was an emergency or some other need that they could allow it to be used, but it would be to bring prisoners up and down. And the new elevator is also required because the existing one is sized, and we weren't going to change the shaft, but we're just going to add the additional landing and create a pit in the basement when we level the floors. But it can't fit a gurney. It's not sized large enough to fit a gurney for emergency personnel, so the new elevator would be the proper size and weight to handle that. And then lastly, on the plans, second floor, what's shown in purple is the light steel addition over top of the existing police department now. And that would be accessed at the end of the corridor. There would be a new stair added. We need it on the lower level also for exiting and access when that goes on. And the new elevator here would also come up to that level to provide the gurney access. And then there are other offices up here, the fire chief, emergency management coordinator, the new bathrooms, which are stacked from the lower level. And the sewer authorities there, code enforcement officer, a kitchenette for all of the borough staff. To clear out the basement equipment-wise, all of the equipment goes to roof-mounted air handling units, mechanical equipment, which will be again similar to the approach we took in the other building. And so the building would have, full air conditioning in all the spaces and not have the window units anymore. As far as what I brought to show you just in terms of the thinking of how that would work for the materials and what we were thinking and how the building would be modified. This was the second floor that I didn't get to show you. So this was the one piece that we're adding up on the second floor in light steel for the administration offices, and everybody else fills in for the balance of the space and the new restroom. So looking at how we came up with the massing and the volume and materials for the building is the light gray is the existing limestone, and the 2 additions on the ends are done in a different kind of stone. So this is the existing limestone. It's weathered a little, so it tends to maybe look a little darker depending on weathering, and we're proposing that it's all cleaned and repointed in this scenario. But then we're proposing that the wings be done in a different stone. This stone panel, this is just a sample, but it's a honeycomb panel with a 1/4-inch granite veneer, and a little darker, and it's flame granite, so it gets a little softer look. That's a detail that can be decided later, but this is the same material honed. The idea being that we're somewhat darker, we are darker than the existing stone. We don't want to try to compete with it. We think the original building should be expressed, and the additions would be a little darker, a little more subdued, and be separated from the main building by glass transitions. So again, we're showing here the lighter building and the darker stone additions on the ends. And the last element would be the upper level addition. And what we attempted to do there was get a metal panel, so again the weight is reduced on that second floor. A gray metal panel that would match the stone color, and then to give balance to it, since the building is so symmetrical and so balanced, that we would do a screen wall, which would just be a screen wall with openings in it to kind of mimic the windows in the administrative side. And that's where the majority of the mechanical equipment would be placed here on this side, so that you still have a balance on the overall facade when you look at it. So that pretty much covers how we approached the program and how we attempted to fit the spaces that we need into the building, and after exhausting that, what we had to add and why we decided to add the way we did. We didn't come out any further toward the street with any of the additions. Again, in deference to the existing building, we held it back even with the facade, and then the glass transitions actually pushed back a little further to get a little shadow there, to make that what we feel to look best. So at that point, we went through the same site visits and analysis while we were doing all this, meeting with the same major subcontractor groups, where we had the same roofer come in and look at the roofing cost. We had the same elevator company in to give us the pricing on the 2 elevators. It's all in the report. We had the same window contractor come in and look at that. And we had an analysis of the exterior facade masonry, which is substantially different in this building than the other building. In the other building, the brick is very much intact and in good repair. Minimal joints had to be addressed on that building. The only thing we had as far as repointing was the outside face of the parapet. In this building, we've had 2 reports done, and in both cases, they're recommending, we have this just limestone on this building. There is no brick. It needs clean. A few stones need replaced. It needs repaired on the backside where the salt has attacked it. But most of those can be repaired in place. But we need to completely repoint it because some of the repointing needs to be redone that was attempted, and others has not been done at all, and water is starting to get into the joints, and it'll only get worse if that's not addressed. In addition to that, the second part of the masonry restoration report that was done is that we have, from both the roof and the groundwater, there's water entering the basement level on 3 sides. Not the driveway in the back to the largest, well, actually there's a little bit coming in on the back side, but the front and the 2 ends are under the pavement, but there's still water coming in. And it's coming in from the roof level down the walls and getting in the interior basement walls also. So there's some major excavation that needs to be done, exposing the outside base of those walls and applying new waterproofing and then backfilling and installing a drainage pipe all around so that there aren't any other problems with moisture in the basement. So that was a different report that we had done for this, or a more expanded report that was done for this because of that, which we didn't experience in the other building. And that's in here. There's a similar asbestos analysis and report recommendations, and that report, in terms of that, the asbestos containing materials is approximately the same as the other building in terms of the scope of it and the cost. The biggest expanded cost that we have on the exterior is really the masonry restoration and the waterproofing. That was the masonry restoration was just over $500,000 was the estimate by the contractor, just to make the exterior stone watertight. And that doesn't include the cost of the foundation waterproofing. So when it comes down to it, and we get to the end of the analysis and we look at the costs, we are providing an estimate of probable cost on the order of roughly 3 times what the other building is. So we were looking at, for the hard construction costs, including the contractor's overhead and profit on the other building, we were around $4,200,000, not including the contingencies. And we had, for borough use only, I'm not counting the tenant space because that takes it out of apples to apples comparison. So for 35,500 square feet in the former Willis building, we were about $120 per square foot construction cost. And the best comparison I can do, just with the differences that we have, is the hard construction costs for this project are $12,315,000 and some change. The overhead and profit on that for the general contractor is about $1.2 million. Well, it's 5 and 5, so 10%, $1,231,000. So we're looking at $13,547,000 for, not including the contingency again, for borough space provided of 37,500 square feet. The difference in the square footage is, there are a couple of reasons. And there's some inefficiency regarding just the size of the structure here and the thickness of the wall, so you don't get as much space out of it. You need more building to accommodate the same department sizes. But that works out to about $360 per square foot. The challenges here are, we have the 2 major additions on the ends. We have the second floor addition above, that we didn't really have in the other building, new construction. It's higher, than you would think it should be in terms of if you were doing if you just looked at it, said, I'm gonna go build a new commercial office building, on an empty, parcel, you know, you would start, at $250 a square foot today. But with the way things are going with materials and labor costs, recently, we looked at a factor for location in terms of building, in and around Pittsburgh here in Munhall. And the recent inflation these past 3 years with construction materials and labor. So that's where we find ourselves. And just one last thing to mention on cost is we looked at a few comparables, but Forest Hills did not build, they don't have as large a project as Munhall, but they did a 12,746 square foot building in comparison to what we're looking at here. Their cost for that was $4,500,000. So the comparable on that is just right about $360 per square foot if you do the math. So that's a neighbor comparable to look to in terms of, are we at the right number, and I believe we are. So, any questions?
Council, Mayor, we'll start with Council and Mayor questions, and I'll ask you something.
I thought that the Willis Center addition work over there was about 5 or 6 million.
It was 5 million. It was just shy of 5 million, 4,000,009 something, including both contingencies. So that included the project contingency and the project contingency and the owner's contingency. We had the hard number construction cost, then we had 10, 10, and 10. 10 for project, 10% for project contingency, 10% overhead and profit, and 10% owner's contingency. So I carried the same percentages on this analysis. Now, there is an argument that could be made that the larger a project budget is, that you could begin to say you don't need to carry the same level of, the same percentage of the number because it's a bigger budget, and you might consider reducing it down from 10% to the contingencies. But I just felt I really am recommending we stay conservative at this schematic level because of the basement work to the floor that has to be done, the waterproofing on the exterior. We don't have any borings yet to know what type of foundations for the 2 additions. And although what we know is under the existing building are spread footings, and it's probably going to be the same, but not having the reports and knowing that we have some, I'll call them extraordinary site costs related to demolishing those retaining walls on both ends because they won't suffice for building foundations. There's too much damage to them and cracking, and the rebar's rusted. And I had the structural engineer attempt to reuse them for the foundations, but he put in his report that they can't be reused. We tried. So, yeah, that's.
Can you speak a little bit on the asbestos in this building? Because I'm surprised it's the same amount of asbestos that's here as what's in the Willis Center. We've not heard that report yet.
Okay.
I've not.
I mean, I can tell you what I know from reading it. Again, I'm not the expert on this, and it's not our, we don't we don't either engineer, design, or do the hazardous material abatement or analysis, but this was done by Allegheny Global. I spoke to them just to make sure I had at least a level of understanding that I could talk about it. Basically, what they're saying is, looking at all the levels with the samples that were done, you know, they've identified that there are similar insulation issues in the basement piping and mechanical equipment piping. There is floor tile in certain areas, the vinyl asbestos tile and adhesive, that if it remains intact, it's fine, but what should be done is it's got to be maintained according to what they're talking about here, or if removed, you know, to be removed completely, and then the floor finish applied. I know that in some cases you can encapsulate it and cover it with another layer of flooring, but that leaves it in the building for some future possible problem if somebody happens to do a pipe penetration or whatever and you hit it. So it's not best to leave it in. They identified some ceiling tile mastic that had the material in it, and some caulking repairs that were done, and some levels of the upper roofs, that the tower roofs that had it in the old roofing material. So floor tile, mastic, floor tile, that's first floor basement, pipe fitting and insulation, all basement. We provided a highlighted drawing of the basement level at the back of the report. It shows the mechanical room. Yeah, he's showing the acoustical plaster ceiling on this level, being the actually acoustical plaster ceiling and floor tile mastic, actually in the code enforcement officers' offices, and last, for whatever reason in those offices, I don't know, but those are
That'll be all done during the demolition state, right?
that's correct. Yeah, when it's disturbed. Or if something's happened to it, like I said, I mean, if you're dribbling through the floor for whatever reason, you gotta be aware of where it is and avoid it. I mean, if you have to do a pipe riser for some reason, or replace one, you would do it in an adjacent room that doesn't have it. So he's indicated by color code where those locations are. And, I mean, that's a quick summary of what's in here, but it's in the report. Any other questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
Okay, only thing, I'm gonna ask,
Oh, okay.
people speak up, come to the microphone, just like identify yourself.
Donna Dreschman, Munhall. If they decide to do this building, will the clock work?
I don't know.
I just thought I'd ask, is the clock on 4:30?
Yeah, I mean, we were up there, we saw it, we looked at it, we looked at the whole building, and the mechanism is still in place. I don't know why, you know, it's not turning or whatever, but it's all there, it's all connected, the gears are all connected, It's pretty elaborate. The room is just taken up by the machine in the middle, and then there are 4 rods that go out to each clock face, and each one turns at the same rate when it works. I'm not sure why not, but I think it could be.
Thank you.
Rob.
Okay, go ahead. Oh, I'll let that guy go for a second. Yeah, go ahead.
So this is the first time I've been here, but I've been.
Your name, sir?
My name is Dan Cipher. So I think I'm following this correctly, but to make sure that I am, you guys are comparing cost-benefit analysis of fixing this building versus the new building, right?
Sure.
So the questions I have first is why are we moving the fire department? Is that building? Because that's neither part of either one, right? But you're including that just to make sure it's apples to apples, is what I'm hearing?
No, it's a big difference in this project that there's a fire department here. The only component of the fire department we had in the other building report that we did initially was a fire chief's office was provided for 2 people.
But the one on Whitaker is still going to be there, or is that instead of that building? Right, that's in addition. Okay. So the question I have is, you mentioned there was 1 person bidding on the different portions, right, to compile this estimate. One company, or did you get 3 or 5 or?
It really wasn't a bid. It was a voluntary estimate provided to us on a specialty item that we felt were the most substantial components that, they were willing to give us construction numbers that we felt were a good check on what we were estimating. So we took that information.
So we just had one group do that for each item, or did we open that up to? I'm trying to understand whatever that was that you called it, right? In most cases, you would open that option up to multiple people to get a good understanding of, what might be fact and fiction. But it sounds to me like you got that estimate from only one group on each different item. I could be wrong because I've never been here before, but that's what I thought.
I mean, we had 2 groups in for the elevators. We had 2 groups in for the 2 groups in for the elevators. 2 groups in for the masonry restoration. But again, it was only to provide some specialty information to us. We've looked at cost data across the board on the municipal facility to put the estimate together. And we just really included those reports as supplements to our estimate. Our estimate already had all the necessary numbers we needed.
Right on.
We felt those were major components. It's not really similar to, we're putting together our final bid documents and going out to bid to open public bid for municipal or otherwise a bid by invite for other types of projects where we have multiple contractors invited to get the best price. I mean, that would be the next step in either case here.
So you're just supplementing the data you couldn't
That's
find.
correct. That's correct.
All right, I just have one more question, if that's okay.
Good.
Okay, so when you're comparing the 2 costs, is there an item for what you'll have to do with the buildings that are empty on either case, right? Because if you move out of here, you got to do something with this building, right? Is that part of the cost-benefit analysis, or is that just left out?
We didn't look at what would occur if the move is made and what happens here in terms of the former offices of the department's plan to go to Willis in that, if that's a decision that's made. But the only thing that was decided was that the fire department would stay here, that the garage, the hall would remain in this building at the point we last discussed it, but we haven't gone beyond that.
So it might be something that would be good as far as the cost benefit, but not what necessarily your focus was.
Yeah, not yet. It wasn't included in our scope to go beyond what future use this would have or what would need to be done here to make it
Right on.
available to other borough offices or to lease or whatever. I mean, I don't know.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
We didn't have that part yet.
Chief, you have a question?
Bill, can you touch on, when we met across the hall with, you, the mayor, Mr. Petruzzi, I believe Mr. Ingles, and Captain Snyder, I believe Mr. Rondo was there.
Yes.
How long would we be displaced from this building once construction started? Because we will not be able to stay in the building as construction is being
Right.
done, obviously.
Yeah, with the new additions, estimated schedule was 15 months. And I'm giving it a range right now since we're still early, 15 to 18 months is what I think. Because of the excavations required and, you know, it's a little bit tight on both ends. We have to maintain the driveway while we're working. So,
Bill, sorry. I just want to make sure we're apples to apples. So you mentioned before about the contingencies.
yes,
So that the same percentages would apply to both. So
correct.
for the Willis Center, it would be closer to 5 million. I assume for this building, it'd be closer to 15 for 10, 10, 10.
That's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
I have a question.
Can you know your name, sir?
Cliff Timko. Question is, you're keeping the fire station if we would move to the Willis Center here.
Yes.
If that's the case, would we have to, because the building is deteriorating, the limestone facade needs to be repointed, waterproofing needs to be done, would those items still need to be done if the fire station were to remain here? Just
Well-
to make the building so it doesn't collapse after a few years?
I mean, I can tell you for certain what we learned is the roof needs addressed.
Or would the facade
Very,
also
very
need to be
soon.
addressed?
Facade too, yes, but the worst condition is the roof because that plaster ceiling in the garage is actually falling in a couple of places from the water.
Okay.
Yeah, but then after that, the stone, correct? You know, I don't, we did not see the same level of moisture and plaster decomposition on the walls in the fire halls we did in the former police exercise room and
But
stuff.
when you need to treat the entire building, you couldn't just treat just...
You would be best served to treat the entire building, yeah.
Okay, so those costs would still be there if we would keep the fire hall here.
I mean, that's a decision I think the borough has to make.
Okay.
I can just tell you what we found that needed to be done.
Good question. What kind of maintenance plan, Lois Brenner,
Thank you.
what kind of maintenance plan should have been taken on by this building to maintain it? I'm just curious.
Well, I mean, that's hard to say. You know, it's just a matter of, I'm not sure when the roofing work was done. I don't know. We've estimated in the report what we feel the age is, and it's the rubber roof that's on there, what at the time was probably done properly, but it's at the end of its useful life. It's past.
Okay.
It's past 15,
But even
20
on the
years.
facade, to maintain the stone, like, I mean, if you would use that material today,
Yeah.
what kind of maintenance would be needed for that?
Well, I mean, you have to understand the building was done in 1940, so it's you know, it's
I know, but you don't do
70,
your house
yeah,
and
it's
just go, well,
78 years old, so, yeah, it's,
Here.
it's, yeah, what, I'm sorry, I walked down here.
I mean, the cost of this building, I think, isn't just over the last 10 years.
No,
It didn't go to what it is now. I mean, this has been over long before any of us were here, I would believe, 30, 40 years.
Well, I guess, Rob, the concern for me is, if this building was never maintained technically in like all those years, we dump money into that building over there, I mean, we have to consider, we have to be on some kind of maintenance on that, or we're gonna run into the same
Well, you always have to
25 years from now, or 30 years from now.
You always have to maintain the building.
I
But we
mean,
haven't maintained this one.
Okay. State your name.
Michael Tabb. In your $5 million estimate for Willis, did that include the demolition and asbestos removal for the building?
We showed it as a line item outside the, below the bottom line estimate of the report. But I feel that in that building, there's enough money in the contingency to cover it.
So you're saying that 5.6 million, or 5.8, whatever it was, will take care of the asbestos removal and
No,
demolition?
it was 4.9 million.
4.9, okay.
4.9 something, just right, almost right at 5 million total, with both contingencies.
Okay, so that, and that
Yeah.
includes the removals?
No, we're saying, I mean, what it shows is subtotal, 3,819,000, bidding contingency, 381, general conditions, 381, that's overhead and profit for the contractor. Owner's contingency, 381, total 4,965,992. And I'm saying that the hazardous material abatement and demolition costs are not included in the stated estimate above. That was determined to be, at the time we estimated at $235,000. But that was, you know, we're saying part of that contingency could be applied to that. So you have roughly, just shy of 800,000, you have $760,000 of contingency, and part of that could be applied to that, hazardous material abatement during demolition, or prior to the demolition.
Okay, so we do add, but
Yeah,
as you say, you can apply some of it, we may run into something, we may not, but it would be,
Right.
the asbestos and demolition is a plus of some sort, and then the repair of the fire department is a plus. I mean, you'd have to add that cost on as well, since we're gonna keep it in this building as it read.
I mean, I don't know what the decision would be by the borough in terms of what they would do for this particular fire station, I'm not sure.
I understand that, but I mean, that's a cost that you've included in this building.
We had to because it
Right,
was
I
here
understand.
where
I
it
just wanna make
wasn't,
sure.
yeah, in
Okay.
the other building, or it wasn't ever meant to be added to the
Right.
other project.
People buy.
Yeah. The one thing about the other building that is easier to deal with is we're not adding any additions there. The
Right.
structure is all there. Really, the only thing we have is a wall foundation around the sally port, a small area. And even the structural columns are there for the sally port, and a roof, a ceiling is there for it. We just need for a floor slab and to create a footer for the masonry walls on two sides. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think Lori had her hand up first. Get on that, Lori, yes.
I just had a question. Laurie Brennan, Munhall Drive. I thought what you said in there was when you compared the two numbers and gave your estimates, this building, you took all of the square footage in your plan, but it's a Willis Center. You only included the square footage that you were going to use for administrative borough use. That's a big building over there, and do you have a number for the entire building, or?
I did have a number for the fit out of the top floor, or the tenant would be paying for that. Or
We
the
have a
second
tenant,
floor.
building. That's the problem.
But we wouldn't build it then. You would just do, what's in the estimate is the core construction for all the floors, meaning the elevators would be, obviously the cab is the same cab, but the elevator entrances would all be done the whole way up. Bathrooms would be done on all floors because you have to by code.
Did
The
you
stairways
include-
would be finished all the way
Did you
up.
include the cost though for all of the bathrooms?
Yes,
in there. Because
Yeah.
when you said that you only included the borough use of that building in your estimate, that's what I was questioning.
No, I was trying to show the apples to apples comparison of the space that we provided for the borough there versus the space we provided for the borough here. But this estimate includes,
Felix, I think you called it a warm shell.
yeah,
So
warm
it
shell, right.
includes the lighting, the bathroom.
It would include emergency lighting, it's everything that you have to do to get a building permit. You would have, there would be a mechanical duct riser to each space, but it would end at an open duct, you know, just blow into space so nothing freezes. It would have emergency lighting, it would have sprinklers turned up in the space because there would be no ceilings until the tanks are found and it's fitted out. So that $5 million cost includes all of that.
I have a question.
Hey, Kevin. That was, you know what,
Kevin Ondo?
Kevin Ondo,
Yeah.
what Mrs. Brennan had said, we're talking about moving into the Willis Center and doing basically the floors that would house the current borough business, am I correct? But we do not have provisions over there for a fire department. The fire department's gonna stay here, but this is gonna be an empty building. If the borough offices move over there. At some point in time, if someone were to purchase this building, what do we do with our fire department? Do we have to build another building? So we gotta add costs for the construction of another fire department. Am I correct?
Well, one thing that you would have to your advantage is, I don't know what the arrangements would be for, I don't think we've done enough analysis to say what we do with this building if the move is made. But you at least have adjacency for this end of the building, close to the, you know, to the borough offices. So it's the closest part of this building to if everything else was relocated. Again, we haven't included that in the scope of what we were asked to do, was not in our.
So our current
Analysis.
borough building right now, we could actually do that so much this year, so much next year, so much the following year, whereas if we start at the Willis Center, it has to be done now. Once we start, it has to be to its completion, am I correct?
No, I'm saying the tenant spaces could be left as warm shell. That's what we were just talking about. That approximately, not quite 2 full floors would be left as warm shell, and whenever a tenant is found, they would pay for the fit out of the space within their lease, is what we've discussed so far. And the borough wouldn't pay for that, the tenant would pay for that.
If we get a tenant.
I mean, you know, it's dependent on the tenant.
Okay, yeah.
But if the tenant's not, I mean, if no one's moving in, you're not building it out yet, you know, so.
Do you have a question? Renee?
Virginia Skills.
Okay.
I have a question. I was under the understanding they were gonna redo the whole Willis Center. You're only doing part of the building, and you're gonna pay $5 million for this, when you're gonna pay $13 million to have almost a brand new building here. And that building's been sitting empty for 20 years or better. So what kind of mess is the other part of the building that you're not renovating?
We've been through the whole building, we've seen the whole building, and we know what we're up against there. And the design is for, you know, mechanical systems that, again, would be able to take care of the whole building, electrical system that would take care of the whole building, sprinkler system that would take care of the whole building.
To me, it's sounding like you're gonna pay $4 million for mechanical, but no actual space renovations at all.
Right, no walls. It's like an office building that's put up for speculation, and then when the tenant is found.
Yeah, but it just seems really dumb to me. It does.
You're getting an entire building that's outfitted for future use, versus paying, what, 14, 15 million dollars to redo this. You're getting it for like 5.5 million or something like that.
But if they're only doing the kennel, doing any kind of remodeling,
Well, that's up to them when they
but the borough still has to go, our people have to go in there and say, okay, I want this done in my room, and chief goes, I want this done in my office. We're still gonna pay.
No, that's
included.
That's all included.
All right, that's why I was a little confused.
Yeah, the whole basement is done, the whole first floor is done, and we had a couple of offices that we needed to do on the second floor. Tax and sewer authority go on that floor, and the community meeting room was centrally located at the core on that floor. And so the ends of the second floor and the top third floor were the spaces that were warm shell.
Okay.
Future others.
Okay,
See, I wasn't here.
Janice Gordon, Longfellow Drive. I have a question. Mr. Rondo just said something about doing the borough building in stages. Is that a feasible thing? And, I mean, wouldn't it, in my opinion, cost would keep going up and up?
Well, it's a difficult problem. You could say there could be an analysis done that you might be able to. You can imagine that if you look at this plan. I mean, imagine if this the blue. Whoops. Imagine if the blue addition is done for the police and the fire department garage is done, and you tried to move everybody into those two new pieces for a while until you did the middle.
Yeah, I mean, the workers couldn't stay in the
But with the
building.
demolition and the materials that are in the building that need to be taken out, even though it's not a huge amount, that it still needs to be separated. It obviously has to, you can't breathe it. I mean, as
And
you're
if you
doing
do
that
like 1 year
abatement.
one part,
Yeah,
and then the next year, like piecemealing,
yeah.
the chance of costs going up is even greater.
Every year we've seen costs
Okay.
go up dramatically, yeah.
Thank you.
In essence, that's what's been done with this building for years.
It'll be a quick one. I'm just curious, that report looks really big, and there seems to be a lot of questions from people that look like they've been here a while. Is that public record? And if not, it is? Where do we get a copy of that?
Fill out a request to know, fill out a right to know request.
Fill out a right to know request?
Are you kidding?
Couldn't we motion to make that?
Request for our borough building, that's
Put it-
just not gonna be made available?
Wouldn't we make that, wouldn't somebody motion here for that to be public record? Generally speaking, right? I mean, there seems to be enough questions here to warrant that. If we're willing to put in the time and read it.
well, I mean, depends how many copies, you know, we're not gonna make, this is pretty thick. We're not gonna make.
Is there a
copies
digital copy of that? There has to be, right?
We will
So,
have one on site at the borough building that people can look at. But what we're saying pretty much is copies, you know, would be on the person. I mean, if I have, you know, 500 people making copies up here, it's gonna be a problem, you know.
Put it on the website.
is there a motion to make the digital version available to? It can at least be a topic of discussion on how we can get it cost effective?
We can, yeah, we can put it
Electronically.
You guys need to vote on that? I don't know how this works.
That way people can look it up on the website.
So
You don't need a motion for that.
you don't need a motion for that, but the minutes will record that that will be
I
done?
just asked Felix to give us electronically. The video. And we can put it on the website. If people don't have a website, there's one at the borough building that we'll have, that you can look at in the office. If you wanna make copies of it, unfortunately, there's like, a lot of people, we're gonna have to charge for copies because it's pretty thick.
And that'll be done before, I guess, a decision is made?
Oh, yeah.
Right on. Right on.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mark, you wanna?
Just one more question.
Mark
Mark Walker, Somerville. With the correct installation of the new roofing system, the pointing and the cleaning and everything, that should help remediate some of the water infiltration inside structurally. Either way, this building's gonna need water management. with the way you were gonna do the basement setup, was there a way to remediate it from the inside of the building and use correct grading on the outside to cut costs?
That is included in the report. He did an alternative analysis to an interior French drain as opposed to an exterior one. That would eliminate some of the excavation for just that on the existing building. It wouldn't eliminate the excavation for the additions, but for the waterproof, you could do an interior French drain. You'd lose a little bit of floor space because the way that's done is you cut this. We're taking slabs out anyway. But
Right, I mean, you're
gonna
leveling out the whole
floor.
basement.
So we could do it on the inside, but we have to put a wall in front of that then, so that the drain is contained behind. And then we need a sump pump, and we'd have to get it to the drain. Yeah, that could be done. He did do that. I did ask for an alternative view of that.
Rob, I'd just like to thank Felix for all the time he put in on this.
Thanks, Felix.
Let's let this settle and we'll move on to secondary.
That has to be part of this. But not for him, right? His job is to put the information out. It's something that you can discuss. Right? Yeah, I agree. You're the dude that does the video. My man, how do we get those on YouTube? They're all.
Last one's
Props to the video guy.
Okay. Oh, Mayor, did you want to make an introduction?
We're not swearing him in today because we have a whole process that he's going. He's just here on behalf of Trayvon. You want to stand up and introduce yourself to everyone?
Trayvon Epps. Munhall fireman. I also play football for the Steel Valley Army as well.
So Trayvon is a student at Steel Valley, and he is going to be a junior councilman. We're going to swear him in. He's going to go through the process of being a junior councilman, being involved in our community. And we're hoping we can get a couple more seniors or juniors from Steel Valley to join him. I'm sorry, Rob, go ahead.
No, thank you. I just asked what year is it, what year in school you went to? You were junior or senior? Okay, senior, okay. Well, thanks, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're involved. Okay, notice the following speakers. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, must avoid personal references, personalities, and personnel-related issues. Oh, did I skip the roll call? I'm sorry.
Councilman Bowles?
Off track here.
Councilman Bowles?
Here.
Councilman Ingalls?
Here.
Councilman Petrucci? Here. Councilman Stein? Here. Councilman Tashant? Councilman Bonadian?
Here.
President Paul?
Here. Okay. Those both speakers' comments will be limited to 3 minutes, must avoid reference to personalities and personnel-related issues. I understand we have a switch here in our schedule. Mrs. Skills and Mrs. Fry have agreed to switch. So Mrs. Skills, you'll lead first.
I'm going to talk about City Avenue. It's become like a raceway. I live on the corner of Superior and Shady. Nobody stops at the stop sign. Over Labor Day weekend, we almost had a child girl riding her bike. The girl didn't stop. We happened to be outside with our grandkids. We screamed stop. If that woman would not have stopped when we screamed, she would have slammed right into that poor little girl on her bike. We have a lot of foot traffic. We have a lot of walkers, a lot of dog walkers. I have gone to other boroughs, rode through other boroughs where they have speed humps. I have sent pictures to Mr. Vahola and the code enforcer. I heard excuses about too expensive. Had one time say to me, PennDOT doesn't allow speed humps. When does Shady Avenue become a state road? I have pictures of speed humps in other boroughs.
You should.
Virginia's
my neighbor.
You say you
I'm
called
a
the chief.
Beaver.
I did call the chief. I called him every other day.
Mr. Fields, where's this road at, what borough is
That actually is in Munhall on Sling Street. But I've been through Bethel Park, I've been through to Mount Lebanon. Yes, I did call Mount Lebanon Borough Manager. But it is expensive to have to put in. If it's a hump, it's not a bump. We've got to do something to slow down the cars on that street. It's becoming, it's outrageous. Well, a handicapped girl lives next door. She gets a bus, comes for every day before school and after school. But because it comes all the way over to the curb and the handicap comes down, they do not have to put on the red lights. You still won't believe the people that speed past this bus because it's 5 minutes late taking their kids to school. The biggest offenders is beginning of school, it's getting to school time, and people coming home from work. We had a neighbor actually chase down a car because they almost, the day before, this same car almost slammed into their daughter. If she wouldn't have played with the radio in the car and she went to turn, that car would have slammed into her. I mean, something has to be done. I don't have any politics or any place because you don't know what people are doing, but we got to slow them down. I don't care if you spray stop all the way up Shady Avenue and down Shady Avenue with spray paint. I don't care. What is the difference of having the line? People do stop every so many feet. I mean, a stop sign ahead or whatever, flashing red lights on stop signs. Biggest thing is people on cell phones. They don't pay attention. They go through. I don't smoke in my home. I smoke on the porch. I see this daily, multiple times. But after the incident over Labor Day weekend, the daughter on the bike, something has to be done. Because it could have been your child, could have been your granddaughter, could have been your grandson. And Shady Avenue is bad. This building's been there since 1992, and over the last 5 years, it's gone nothing but worse.
I actually saw the neighbor chase down the car.
We can be clear, the neighbor was my wife.
Well, it says I'm not allowed to do any personal things, so I did not know that
I
either.
did, I'm already with that.
That's his wife.
Okay, and the
Confirm that too.
scary part was, the little girl in the wheelchair that lives next door. They didn't even slow down when that bus was there, regardless if they had the lights on or not, because I talked to the bus driver. If they're pulling over and bringing down a handicap, they do not have to turn on the red lights and pull up the stop sign. If they have to let her off in the street, they do. And because she's in a wheelchair, they also require that they don't have to, if she's a walking handicap, they would do it whether she was at the curb or in the middle of the street. Although I did ask the bus driver to do it, and she said, no. So,
The bus driver will wave you around because she knows she's the only student getting on and getting off. She's not entering the road.
yes, and
She will sit there and wave you through.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you speak.
right.
And I've noticed it's an epidemic, it's all over. I mean, all over Munhall, all over other communities, disregard, because of the darn cell phones and everything. It's all over the place, Chief. Not just
We
here, it's
notice
everywhere.
it every day. We have an officer up there as often as we can to monitor that particular stop sign. You know, everyone thinks when they're sitting there, that they're sitting there because I live there. Or when we did it years ago, it's because Mayor Biden lived there. We do it there as often as we can because it's a straightaway, it's abused constantly. And I believe there was someone there, I went home today before we came here, and he was, one of our guys was on that stop sign, and so.
And Monday they were there, and what I witnessed, because I am smoking my home, cars were actually telling other cars to stop the stop sign because there's a cop there.
I think the big thing is, put more regulations on cell phones, too.
How are you gonna regulate that?
Can't do that, that's not allowed.
Actually, Regina, I agree that you do smoke on your porch, because I usually stop at that stop, then turn around and see if you're there on the way down.
Exactly. And yesterday there was another incident of a poor teenager who happened, his back window happened to get busted out by something in his car. We were cleaning the glass out. He goes, you know, nobody stops at the stop sign, like the car coming up behind you. And I was like, well, they hit me, then my husband becomes very rich. And but I'll be dead.
And I want to thank you for taking care of my son as well.
I see that smile come on your face.
I do not.
I don't drive it, you know, come outside. Grass, leave that big cars blow that traffic streets out. Move back to the front of my house.
The storage drain volley that was redone on Shady Avenue, is there any plans with guardrails up along that side? Because it's pretty bad bend, and we've had, what, 3 cars go into the gully in the last year? 2? And one wasn't so long ago, I think. And you see people have to move and jump out of the way. Somebody can go, well, because cars can run that bend out too far. Don't realize it's not a real wide bend. And also the second bend, right afterwards, is a pretty bad bend also too, but there's nothing to do there.
We look into that, Bob and Colin?
And I want to try to figure out a solution with the stop sign, like I said, maybe paint stop, the speed humps would be great. But it's cost effective.
More police officers.
We go through you.
Speed humps are allowed, speed bumps are not.
Right.
But I know when they install, the new ones that they put in Still Valley's parking lot, when they put them in, the contractor is a good friend of mine, he told me it was $18,000 for how they put them in. They're more gradual, they're longer. I was shocked when he told me it was $18,000.
18,000 back.
Yeah.
There's nothing to them, they're asphalt.
Okay, that's what he told me.
Well, when I spoke to my Lebanon fire manager, they did say that it was very costly to put them in.
There's
And also costly to maintain after you went.
Get that different. They have in our campground that they come up a little ramp, they plateau, then they go down.
Yeah, I think that's the one, like these ones on.
Right.
Yeah. It's just a,
You can't leave them up in the winter, when the plows go down, you got to before that.
Look at that, we'll look at it.
Shady's flat, so they
Them ones that Steel Valley,
Those are.
can't pick them up.
No, they're right,
You
you're the
can't put that
actual
down on
box.
Shady.
No, they're.
Are they the house?
Was it previously mine because it's much
And
longer?
also too, like I live right there, my driveway is part of that over there. You won't relate to people at home, they don't care, call me all the time. Terrible names, but I'm come into my driveway, pull into my driveway, they still gotta stop regardless if I'm getting into my driveway or out of my driveway. And they don't do that. You know, so, I don't know. Try and figure something out.
So much to work on, public safety. I hope we can do it. Thank you.
All right.
Okay, Jim Barker Jr.
He's not coming,
30 minutes, okay. Then we go to Morning Drive.
I'll just ask that, was the video working tonight? Not Dave's, but the borough one. Where the record the meeting.
We get ours from him.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, he was a
I'll get it from Dave.
Super. Good. Okay. As I put on my agenda, old business, you know what I want to ask you? Are the cameras fixed yet on Main Street?
My understanding, no, I don't believe they are, right?
No, I texted him the other day, and he said he's trying to get it in. Did you text him too?
Give me his number, I'll text him. I'll text him.
Yeah.
We're waiting for him to start.
I see new covers on the microphones. Are the microphones fixed?
Yes,
On
they
the
are.
new cover? Are they?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Petrusi. Thank you. Okay. A few months ago, we talked about demolition, of certain buildings that were in such bad shape. And I just want to ask, the agreement that we agreed with a person who owned the house on Ravine Street was that he was going to pay, we would demolish the house because it was falling in over. Is he paying the $200 a month voluntarily? Because that was
Without question.
Pardon?
Without question.
For what?
Without question.
Thank you.
Microphone.
So the,
Thank you, Mr.
We don't give a microphone.
Without question.
that's not the microphone, but that's, okay. So the question, the answer is yes, thank you. I think he left, but I was going to ask you about the proposal for here, and I wanted to thank the man himself, because I think he did an outstanding job. I did bring up at the workshop that Mr. Cannon and Mr. Vashevich were going to work on ordinances and then present them. I really would like to suggest, if we could please, would you consider having a town meeting so that anybody who would be interested would be willing to come and put in their 5 cents for it? Because I would think it's very hard to pick up all aspects, animal control and everything. I would just think that people would love to hear what could be proposed, or might be proposed, and we would learn something, and we would learn something. That's a suggestion. My other thing is, at the workshop, Mr. Varhola mentioned that we accepted the check from Travelers for $23,375 for the paving.
I did not say that.
Oh. So we did not accept the check.
Not yet.
We are going to before November 1st or 30th.
We're going to vote on it tonight. If council accepts it, we will.
Okay. And you mentioned that you and Mr. Bassani were going to allow our borough employees to do the work, because they could do it for a lot less. Okay? And my question is, how much do you propose, are you saying it would cost for our borough to do it versus Travelers?
Travers has asked us to match the 3,000 with them. So we're going to do it less than that.
So can you give us a figure?
No.
So we don't know, but we know it's less.
We don't have prices. I don't believe we have any prices on what the materials will be yet, but we're pretty sure they're coming less because it's our own labor. That's how I see it.
Okay. Do we have anybody trying to lure businesses into our borough to take place off Sherman's? I was at Fols's yesterday. They've already reduced their hours. I'm sure the man is chomping at the bit to get out. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't want those hours either. And after all these years, his children are grown. But do we have anybody who possibly puts the word out there to lure other businesses to our safest city in the state?
I can tell you this, that the person who bought Sherman's, he can do what he wants to do with that. Whether he wants to put a house in there, whether he wants to put a business in there, that's up to him. The borough doesn't have any say-so in what he puts in there.
Okay. I did want to mention for everybody that Orion Storage this Friday from 11 till 2 is having a free shredding event down there. Anybody wants to take advantage of it? At the waterfront, Guardian Storage.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Hey, Mark Walker, our next speaker.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak. Major reason I'm here is the paving in Munhall Drive. It's basically 7 years past due. I see it's on the schedule now. Projected paving starts early October start date, and then there's a start date of September 19th. Do we know if it's October or September when this is going to happen?
So, you want me to handle it. I mean,
What happened there is we had a meeting, a pre-construction meeting with Liberoni, who won the bid. We were sitting down there to talk to them. The Friday before we were having a construction meeting, we got a permit from People's Gas. People's Gas said, hey, we need a permit, we're coming in here to rip up these two streets. We have a permit. We called them immediately. First of all, we called them and we sent an email in February requesting that if they have any projects in Munhall, they let us know so we can plan for this. So we asked people to come to this pre-construction meeting to say, hey, what are we gonna do here? You know, we're gonna rip this up. It makes no sense whatsoever for us to go through with the paving project and have the gas company come in the following week and rip it up, all right? So that's where we are. So when we do this, the gas company came in and finished it. Liberoni, we told them, hold off on our project. We need to move, we have this other thing that's gonna be coming. You have to reschedule us later. Now we're at the mercy of Liberoni to schedule us. We talked to them this week, we talked to them last week. They told us the 16th, around the 16th, but then they were concerned about school and school starting, and is there any time that they can do it around school? We told them, don't worry about the school, we need to get this project done as we bid it out and finish it for the year. He got back to Colin 2 days ago, or me, whoever was one of us, we both sent the emails, and he said, it looks like the first week of October. However, again, because of weather and because of other issues, we can't guarantee it's going to be exactly in the first week of October. We found out when we did Shady that the contractor has to go. We had the contractor pull off Shady a few times to do other projects for us that are a bigger priority. So we have a commitment that our project has bid out. We're not going to do any add-ons right now because it is to get it completed.
and just to piggyback on what you were saying, after all the dust was settled with Peoples, we issued them notice to proceed. I don't know the exact date, but it was in early September. So at that point, the clock starts ticking. They have a 60-day contract.
Okay.
So we fully anticipate the project being done within those 60 days. And if for some reason it goes past that, there's gonna have to be a compelling reason, and we're gonna have to issue them a change order for that.
The original bid, was that, is it a brand new bid, or is it the old bid that was developed with the 5-year strategic planning?
We do the bids once a year.
Okay.
So we have to
So it's a
bid,
new one.
right,
The bid was opened in April
right,
and awarded in May, I believe.
right. And with this, because we did this, and because of the project we were doing, when we met with people, we met them on Summerfield and Roberta, and we said, this is, what's gonna make your job easier? They said, we could either cut all the sidewalks out, it was very expensive, but it's easier if we go right down the street. We told them, go right down the street. When you go down the street, we're gonna make it easier for you, but we want compensation for that. We're not just gonna say we're making it easier for you, and then, and you save the money, you save the time, you save everything. We want a chunk of that. We met with them, we told them that we want $44,770.36. And they said, you become a vendor. They sent me the paperwork, we became a vendor. And then all we have to do is invoice them when the project's over, and we'll get a check for $44,777.36.
And that's roughly 10% of the paving cost. It's savings to the federal.
On a good note, they've already completely reconstructed about a third of the street, down 6-8 inches. So, the status, do they know if they're gonna do 2-inch, 4-inch, complete reconstruction of that street?
3.5.
3.5. So that street, I'll get into this in a minute, per the Pacer scale, falls as a 1, which is complete reconstruction of the street, which is an excavation of it out, new base layer, and a new resurface. That's the way that street falls within the Pacer scale. I'll get into the Pacer scale right now. I'll keep it down to like 2 minutes. The Pacer scale basically is a rating system for the level of distress of the street. It's a 0 to 10 scale. So it goes the whole way from a 2-inch mill to a 4-inch mill, down to minor reconstruction to full reconstruction. That street falls in full reconstruction status right now. If you do a 2-inch mill or a 3.5-inch mill, it's gonna fall apart in a year.
Well, we'd have to get our engineer's opinion on that.
I disagree. That's my opinion. So, I've seen Roberta, I agree, the wearing course is shot. I don't think there's extensive base repair required there. I don't think there's any. I can tell you, since I've been involved here, we've done at least 4 or 5 paving projects. We've approached them all similarly, and we've had great success, including the ones on Ravine Street, the alleys that we did, the list goes on.
I would disagree with that because when Lindy was doing the actual cutting on the street, they said there's no concrete base and the saw was going straight down through nothing into dirt.
I wasn't there when Lindy did that.
So, I mean, that's a natural observation because I
Well,
was
we
there.
have an allowance in our contract for base repair.
Okay.
So if base repair after Liberoni Mills, we'll go out there and look at it. Our public works will be involved, I'll be involved. If base repair is required, we will repair those areas. We have an allowance in our contract.
That sounds reasonable. So, the only reason that 2017 budget was $750,000 for paving. After the audit, there was only $426,000 spent, which is a concern to me. So that means, where was the planning in the process? So, I try not to complain without a plan. So, I basically outlined, if we adopt some kind of, I don't care if it's a PACER scale, PCI scale, evaluate, do a full audit for all of Munhall roads. Get them on a rating, see where they're at, and get them planned. The strategic plan for the next year plan should have already started as soon as the last plan was approved throughout the process of doing the new budgets through the other plans. That way, there's some kind of consistency already going. So if you rate every street, then they'll be done in order of the degradation of the level. And that way you can plan the budgets in a more efficient manner. Does that sound reasonable?
We have a 5-year plan.
We've done that.
We've done that.
Was there a complete street audit of all the streets and their distress level?
We haven't used the PACER scale, but we've used the similar, like 1 through 5 system, things federal highway. We've coordinated with Public Works. We've identified what we feel are the worst possible streets. Right now, we've done a preliminary cost estimate. We're trying to divvy everything up in the next 5 years.
Oh, would you be able to take his papers and review them and see if you can adopt anything that he gave us?
Yeah, we'll do.
Even the ideas around it, is there a possibility that the ratings or document could be like created just for some kind of flow that the public could be, that we could have that's visible on the public works site? Of where these roads are and their rating system that you're gonna perform.
Yeah, we can talk about doing, I mean, there's obviously a cost associated with doing this type of inventory, but, it's something we
It's
can
gonna be a
discuss.
cost, but I think it's, there's always a cost before pre-planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Reports from borough officials. Mayor.
Thank you, Rob. I just wanted to state for a second, I was at Mayor Esper's celebration last week. She was named Mayor of the Year of Pennsylvania, of the whole complete state of mayor, has named the Mayor of the Year for her. She was voted by the Mayors Association of all the mayors throughout Pennsylvania, not all the mayors, but in that association. So that's really a very nice gesture to be accoladed by her members. And the ceremony was at Homestead Council Chambers. It was very well attended, and it was a very nice evening. And Munhall was represented by me, and it couldn't have went nicer. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, how nice it was. I just want to bring something to everyone's attention. We're going to be voting on a motion 8 tonight. That's going to be involving some equipment that when I was at the Pennsylvania Mayors Association meeting in Penn State, we had a presentation by Castle Shannon's lieutenant who was there, and he spoke of the Mayors Association there regarding plate readers and ticket writers and all kinds of things that they have available to them, and how they tie together with the district attorney's office and the cameras that we're talking about, and all these things that try to move Munhall into the 21st century. So I saw this, I saw it, and it's unbelievable that what they have. And I sat there and I thought, why don't we have this? We should have this. This moves us leaps and bounds. So this is something that was brought back by me to the borough through training, through meetings. People say, why do you go to these meetings and spend money and spend borough money, going talking to people and going to meetings? Well, I know I do, and I'm sure council members, when they're out, they're talking to people, they're gaining information. So I just wanted the residents to know what this is and how it's going to affect the borough. It's going to be a great asset for the police department. They can pick up stolen cars, wanted felons, expired license plates. It can go on and on and on. And it's all tied together through a central computer. So also, they're going to have ticket writers in there. So the ticket writer is going to be in the car. When they write their tickets, it's going to simplify their work. It's going to make their police car more like their desk, their office, and it's going to put things much easier for the police officers to deal with. So when they write a ticket, it will go right to the magistrate's office, or right to the state police, or whoever it has to go to. They don't have to sit down and come back and write reports, manually write them out. It's going to make our police officers' jobs easier. They're going to have less paperwork to do. It's going to be a big advantage for them. And I know that they're looking forward to this. So I just wanted to speak about that for 1 minute about what this actually is, okay? And then I just want to speak to council and the people about the rezoning of 9th Avenue, 10th Avenue, 12th Avenue, that whole area down there. I went to the planning commission meeting after the workshop last week, and they were talking about it there. And the owner of the property was there, and his real estate agent was there. We need to set up a meeting like we had said we were going to do, and get everyone together there, because this issue is not resolved. And the preacher, he's trying to preach his way through the planning commission again and trying to get something resolved there. We need to have a meeting amongst everyone and get everyone together so one side's not preaching one way and another side's not at the meeting, not preaching, not knowing what's going on. So I'm stressing to council, please set a meeting up and do it so we can get this resolved down there. Okay?
If I can just ask a question on that, when we left that meeting, I was under the understanding that we were scrapping the old, and we had to start back over the whole process from scratch.
Right.
So that was a process for the zoning, or the planning commission to bring it back to council as a second step, right?
Yeah, that's typically how the process works. The original recommendation from the planning commission was met by immense opposition here when we had the public hearing for the ordinance, and council then listened to citizens and did not vote to make the change, as we all recall. So it was sent back to the planning commission. The way the process typically works is they would schedule a public hearing, invite all those same people, all those same residents, and try to come to a consensus, and then they make a new recommendation to council. So the ball really is in their court, the way it works in local government. They're in charge of this process and bringing the parties together and trying to find common ground so they can make a recommendation back to council.
So I thought it was your recommendation from you that we were gonna bring everyone together and informally sit down and talk about what we wanna do there. Not that the planning commission was gonna have a meeting, not back to the planning commission. I at least felt that was what, the way this was gonna go. And I think that other residents felt that, because I called several of the residents who weren't there at the meeting, and they said, well, no one notified us, no one said anything to us. And clearly, when I walked into the planning commission meeting, they were discussing moving forward and trying to replan and rezone that area again, and they're leaning more towards a business area down there, and the residents are clearly not for business area down there. And, you know, the owner, the property owner, he's swaying the planning commission, hey, this is what we want, and they're all ears listening to him, and there's no one there from the public to say, wait a minute here, we live here, these are our homes, this is where we live at, and it was not, there was no representation on both sides.
I remember that. Mayor, I thought that the ministers group was gonna try to sit down with the residents there to see what the residents would pretty much accept and wouldn't balk at, you know, that they
That's
could
what
come
I'm
across.
asking to have
But I
happen
thought it
here.
was those two groups were gonna sit down before they came to us, really.
What I had suggested, Mayor, and I recall this very clearly, it's the planning commission's function. I said, if council directs me to go and participate and offer legal input, I'd be happy to do that at the planning commission meeting. But they're to schedule this, and what I envisioned was they would do the same thing we did. They would advertise and post in that whole area.
That was not done.
Well, that's what council directed them to do, as I recall, and then that can still be done.
And it can be, and that's why I'm bringing this up, because there's a misunderstanding on both parts, and we need to have both parts brought together so that we can mash this out and people can live down there in harmony with the way we're gonna zone it down there. I mean,
Who's
we
the
can't,
chair of the planning commission?
I'm not sure.
PJ. Yeah, well, why does someone tell PJ to call me, and I'll tell them what I think they should be doing. And if council wants me to participate at the public hearing, I'll do that.
That would be great. That would be great.
Yeah.
I think it would be
I'll be happy.
warranted, and I think we need to advertise that so everyone is at the meeting, because it was on their agenda, because they have an agenda for their planning commission meeting, which I didn't know they had an agenda, but it was on their agenda, because I asked them that. And that's where the invitation comes in, where everyone posts it and we get everyone together. So let's move forward and get that done. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, the reporter solicitor.
Thank you, Mr. President. All of my items are actually agenda items, so there's nothing else I need to add, so nothing else to report. Thank you.
Okay. Borough manager.
We're gonna vote on the MMO that we need to put into the pensions tonight, and we did receive a check, the state aid allocation is $363,555.43. The budget calendar is in your packets. I believe it starts the first Tuesday in October. Local Government Academy newly elected officials class start November 16th, and I sent something to the councilman-elects. Tomorrow there's a Malcasan emergency meeting to discuss a consent decree in Green Tree. I sent an email out, I'm assuming no one wants to go with me. County Councilman Paul Klein delivered a certificate of recognition to us that I'll present in October for the 2019 Pennsylvania Safest Place to Live. And 2020 banner community applications are being worked on at this time. That's all I have.
Question. I forgot my question.
Let me answer that. It's an easy one, go ahead. You can come back to it.
I'll come back to you. I can't remember what they want to ask you now. There we go.
Look at my notes.
No, it's something you were just talking about. I can't think of it.
That's all on here.
I'll think about it.
You move on to the engineer.
most of the things I've been working on have already been covered tonight, but just one thing, Joe and Greg, you guys can jump in if I'm wrong. Nuvo was a company who agreed to purchase the waterfront property for $300,000 contingent on their due diligence for the site. They opted to back out of that agreement, but when they did, they turned over their due diligence to us to review. There was over 2,500 pages of documents. I tried to summarize a lot of those findings and conclusions. The good news is they did a lot of investigation on that site. The bad news is that they confirmed a lot of things that we had suspected along, that there's a presence of lead and slag and volatile organic compounds. Just want to quote one thing here from one of their due diligence reports related to their business. It was prepared by G.H. Higgins. They said, financially, this location looks promising. I highly recommend the development of this property into the Class A storage facility. So with that being said, and the fact that the cost of their building is relatively fixed, using a little bit of conjecture, we can draw the conclusion that the main reason they backed out is because of the cost to develop the site. Excavating that material, it has to be tested. Everything that contains lead and slag has to be brought to a special dump site. It's going to be a very costly operation. From a regulatory standpoint, it looks like it's pretty clear. There may be some, depending on what the use is for the property, there's still going to be some coordinations and maybe some hurdles we have to overcome with DEP. But the main thing that I take away from it is going to be the cost, the potential cost to develop that site. So I know there's been a lot of talk here about what that site could be used for, the sale. I just want to make council aware that before we make any decisions on what should be done for the site or making proposals done for the site, I think we need to closely look at what needs to be done from a regulatory standpoint and also do some high-level construction cost estimates prior to moving forward with any type of planning, pursuing grants, funding, talking to people, because there's going to be a lot of variability with this cost. Just one other thing they found when looking at this historic site for U.S. Steel, a lot of the reports cited, there's also a high possibility of underground storage tanks, oil water separators. There's all sorts of stuff underground there that they anticipate hitting, which again is part of the reason I think Nuvo backed out. So,
Did any of the reports say that?
yes.
Is that something that the public can see?
2,500 pages.
I just wondered.
I'd like a copy of it. So I'd like to see it. I gave you the original copy from KU Resources when they did the whole waterfront. I'd like to read that copy too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I don't, they're not mine.
Why not? They're ours.
Yes, so you should have access to them.
I should. And Joe, I do remember what I wanted to ask you, not to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
So the budget meetings, because I know we're hearing people from the public want to say, we want our input. They are open to the public.
Yeah, they're advertised.
Right. The budget meetings are open to the public. Come and you can sit in and see what happens.
Ones that happen once a year.
Once a year. Right.
In April, you said.
No, it's coming up.
They're coming up in October. And they're more than once a year. There's budget meetings every month, actually. But the ones where we concentrate on the budget, where Jason's the finance chair, they start, the budget, concentrating on the finance, start in October. And they go through November, and everything goes good. We vote on a budget in December.
That's for next year's budget.
It's for 2020.
Right. Is that information on the website? It is, right?
The meeting dates?
Yeah, I mean,
Yes. The meeting date should be on the website.
They are not there yet. and you
They're not
guys
yet.
haven't
Okay, they'll be after
got a copy
tonight.
of the schedule yet, but
Will
They
be the
can.
minutes, or will be a different?
They'll be on the website.
they'll be on the calendar. You'll see it on the calendar.
Okay, were you done? Colin?
You guys have the rest of my report. If there's any questions about that, I'd be glad to elaborate further if I can.
Okay. Okay, Public Works Supervisor, Bob.
No, that time of year we set the community.
Thank you. You're doing a great job. Appreciate all the hard work. I lean on them once a year heavy for Community Day.
Oh, I know, anything else I have is, Velvet Drive is getting base repair. We had a water problem there, but in line, and it's finally getting done. And then the, gas company's gonna be tearing apart on Main Street, from Melvin down to Fairlawn. Putting 6-inch gas line in. That's all I have, any questions?
Okay, so our police chief has stepped out. So I'll come back to him. Fire Chief Brian's in the
Alright, report for the month, again, you guys all copy. Calls for the month of August for the Bureau of Fire, we had 1 odor smoke in the building investigation, 3 natural gas emergencies, 4 other types, 19 mutual aid assistance, 1 vehicle fire, 2 commercial fire alarm activations, 5 EMS assist, 1 police assist, 2 carbon monoxide emergencies, and 3 wires down. Total of 48 calls for the month. You see the manpower hours down below. Total manpower hours expended in emergencies was 367. Total training hours 347, and other public service hours were 403, for a total of 1,117 man hours for the month. And that does not, as a note down below, does not include meetings and borough chiefs activities. The other thing I have here, next month is fire prevention. So the week of October 6th to the 12th, Bureau of Fire is engaged in fire prevention activities. So the schedule for this year, October 10th, will be St. Teresa School, kindergarten through 3rd grade, starting at 12 p.m. Bureau of Fire will be doing a presentation, and then on the 11th is our annual talk and spending the day at Park School. We work with the K through 4th grade, starts at 9 a.m. St. Teresa and the park high rise will be later on in the year. And that Park School, I know that's the one where the fire department spends the entire day up there, and they go from classroom to classroom, and they actually eat lunch with the kids, and spend some time with them during their recess hours, so I think the firemen actually get more out of the kids.
Yeah, the Mount Homeland the fire department do an excellent job of doing that for years.
That'll be October 11th. Yes, sir.
Really cool heads that up for you.
Yeah,
right?
really cool.
He does a great job, know you guys.
He's been doing this for over 30 years.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Pat, I skipped over you, but now you're back, you have to take your report.
Yeah, I'll be brief. 501 calls for the month, 31 arrests, 26 traffic citations issued, like month on traffic. We've been fairly busy, that's why we're on traffic, but motion number 8 is, actually what that is I explained. But
The mayor was spoke on that.
Okay, very good. Okay, I have no more questions. I have nothing else to say. What's your questions?
Okay, thank you, Chief. Okay, code enforcement officer.
We have a copy of my report, and nothing else to add. Are there any questions?
Okay, items for, public comments on agenda items.
$2,573,205.50.
So you have to write that down.
You answered that one before I asked it. But anyway, motion 4. To authorize the solicitor to move forward with the process for unused borough properties. How many parcels are there?
9?
I think I added one to 10. 10.
10?
I added number 3 fire, I'll see if we get it in.
Oh, that's right, yeah. Remember, I forgot about that.
All of them are vacant properties. I added number 3 fire hall just to see what we can get. If we don't like any of the bids, we don't have to pay.
Okay, number 3, fire hall, there's problems with the structure on that, correct?
Before, it was the floor.
Before? Okay,
Wouldn't hold the weight of the fire truck with water in it.
okay. Motion 6. Do we know how many parcels are with this one?
No.
Okay, so when we go to advertise it, are we just gonna, we gonna have an amount that we're gonna advertise with, or?
No, what this is, ProChamp is a company that we're gonna advertise an ordinance that we're gonna allow them to go and find all the foreclosures, all the abandoned properties and rental ordinances so we get the right amount of funding. Remember a name by Turnkey that we used a few years ago. Turnkey would go out and send bills. You have a apartment, or you have a house, and it has 3 apartments in it. That means there should be 3 occupancy fees collected, and also those 3 people live there, they work somewhere. Are we getting the right wage tax? Therefore, this company will do it. They'll do it at no cost to the borough. They take a piece of what they collect.
A good way to yeah, they'll identify all the properties that are in the foreclosure process, many of which are vacant, and they track down the companies to then guarantee that those companies are maintaining compliance with the borough ordinance. And so we're updating our ordinance to make them responsible as the entity running a foreclosure process to keep the structure in compliance with the codes, pay any fees, and the cost that they charge is built into the ordinance, so it costs the borough nothing. They end up getting it from the applicant. Any property in foreclosure, they have to buy a permit, pay for a permit as part of this ordinance. So it's a system that the company's out of Florida, and they just came into Pennsylvania, and I've read a lot of their literature, and it sounds like a good program, particularly because it's no cost to us. They seem to have had success elsewhere, so we'll find out.
When you say foreclosures and they go, is there like a list that they can go look at the banks that are foreclosing on them?
Yes.
We can't get that. We can't get that. And what happens is when somebody walks away from their mortgage, the banks don't take it out of the borrower's name. So the borrower's gone, the bank owns it, but it's still in the borrower's name, so we can't tell them it's in.
Yeah, I know Penn Hills, there was just an article on paper not too long ago, Penn Hills charges $400, Penn Hills gets $300 of it, and this company gets $100 of it. So similar to.
That's about the same thing.
Okay, motion 7, can you explain this one to me a little bit?
Yeah. The bottom line is, when the field was put into place, there was a agreement that Still Valley gets first preference of the field. So and that's all it said. Still Valley sports get first preference of the field.
That's if they wanted, when they play ball and stuff.
Right. So what does first preference mean? It's very vague, right? So we went out right away and we partnered with Chatham, but this is their own course. So Still Valley has it, Chatham has it. Now, does this give Still Valley the right to, if Chatham is on it, just to say, hey, we get first preference, you gotta leave? We don't know what that means, and it's not a good working relationship. So because it's first preference, and we all believe that that field is for Still Valley too, we're gonna offer the field to the school district and say, here, this is yours. You take the upkeep, the security, and all the maintenance that needs it, and then you can do whatever you want. If they want to rent the field out to Chatham, they can. If they want to rent it out to others, they can. We're more or less saying, here, we'll offer the field to you.
Okay,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Joe.
I do remember the meeting here.
If I'm wrong, Joe, on this. For instance, we've had occasions. Chatham has had a game schedule, right?
Chatham has a...
Still Valley, they have put their schedule, they have a game schedule. Still Valley comes in and says, we want that game, we wanna bump Chatham off now because we need to make a makeup game for a rain out, or we just wanna come and practice.
What happened is
They
recently,
need to,
is-
that's what, some of the problems we've been getting into.
Chatham has an NCAA schedule. They gotta get the schedule in. They have a doubleheader, say it starts at 11 o'clock. Still Valley schedules an exhibition game, a practice game, right in the middle of that. So the first preference being that they can just tell Chatham that they can leave. It seems like. And so we're saying, you know, you're holding us to this first preference. Why don't we just offer you the field? And then you can run the field.
Don't Chatham also help with the maintenance of the building?
Chatham
Fred.
pays a lot of the cost.
When they bought things for the field, they want.
Okay, I do remember when they had the meeting before they went ahead and they did the field, that it was being built there with Still Valley to have the preference, but I always thought that was whenever their schedule was made versus, and now that Chatham's involved in it. So are you asking for Still Valley to take all the maintenance of the field over?
Are you giving them the field?
No, we're leasing
Borough
them,
property.
leasing them, just like somebody would lease them, Still Valley Youth Baseball, Troutman, or Wood Hill to Still Valley Girls.
Okay, because that field would have never been built there years ago, because that field was built on a donation.
Correct.
Am I correct? And I believe, I guess I'd have to really dig down, that I asked who was gonna end up maintaining that field years ago, because it's nice to get free stuff. But I did ask that question, what happens when that, you know, when the field has to be maintained, like say the turf is good for 10 years, 15 years, I said, who has to pay for that further down? And everybody just looked at me.
The borough does.
So now,
The borough owns the field, we gotta pay for it, that's why Chatham is a critical partner with this borough. It costs a lot of money to maintain that field and those facilities in a first-rate condition. We've had a good relationship with the school trying to honor their priority, which we recognize, and it's worked, we've got a lease agreement with them, but we said, we need Chatham's income to help us pay for this field. And it's become more and more difficult with, I don't know names, certain individuals at the school who are not willing necessarily to recognize it. We say Chatham gives us, at the beginning of the year, Still Valley, we say, give us your whole schedule, and then Chatham works around that. We try to coordinate this, the scheduling process because we need that income. But it's become difficult for our administrators dealing with the school, they want to bump out Chatham.
so in other words,
Let me just finish. So the thought was, we have to pay and maintain this. You're not satisfied with the way we're running it. Why don't you just run the field and pay for the whole maintenance yourself?
okay, so in other words, you're telling us that you're having problems with the school district with scheduling and so forth.
Right.
Okay, so now it's more clear, because I believe years ago, there was gonna be a donation to put a ball field in the back of the school district. Plans were drawn up for that and everything. They were gonna put the baseball field for the school district back there, and then they decided to move it down here.
Well, when the project was constructed, part of the donation was a requirement that we give the school first preference.
I understand that, yeah, but now we're having problems communicating with the district, and this is why you're doing it.
Right.
Okay, because years ago, somebody else wanted to come in and take the field. They came into a meeting and they had to have that answer right there that night. I have somebody, I want to take the field, we're going to take the field over, and the borough thought about giving the field up and going to give them, but they couldn't, I guess, get the other match to redo the field. But that's over and done with, and that never happened, so. Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
I have a question about that. I mean, this field is probably the best asset that the residents of Munhall Borough have. And when you're, Greg, it seems a slippery slope you're going down. What are you, I don't understand when you say that you're gonna offer them a lease for what? What are we giving up because you don't want to keep maintenance of the field? And the current financial situation of Still Valley School District, that's a whole nother thing. What makes you think that they're going to be in a better position to maintain West Field that belongs to the Munhall residents than Munhall Borough can?
I agree. So you feel that the taxpayers of Munhall should have to pay for the Still Valley baseball team to use that?
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm asking. That's a serious question.
we are part of the Steel Valley School District, but,
There's other boroughs too.
right.
So,
But you can come up with an agreement maybe, but you have to honor the original intent of what was given to, that created that field for this borough. And I'm just not so sure by giving up maintenance of it to a school district, you know, are you giving up more than you realize you're giving up?
I personally don't know what we're giving up other than that.
Well, we've never heard this has never been discussed in an open meeting before. So what is it that the letter says that you're asking Steel Valley School District to take over? And what are their obligations going to be when they're in no more of a financial position to take over maintenance of that field? They're probably in a worse position.
Well, a lease would have to be drafted. The thought process was if they're willing to do it, they would take over possession and control of the field. We would still own it. It would be a long-term lease. It would cost them nothing. And they would also undertake full responsibility to maintain the field to whatever level that we would describe in the lease. And we'd have to put some conditions in there where if we thought perhaps they weren't maintaining it, and the lease could be terminated, something to protect against the thought process that you were speaking of.
When you say long-term lease, what are you talking 5 years, or are you talking 90 years?
I don't have a thought on that because I work at the direction of council. They would tell me what's appropriate.
And there's been no public discussion about it, that you're gonna draw up a letter without any public discussion, and this is a big deal. That field is our biggest asset in this borough probably, that people come from all over to go to, and all of a sudden it's gonna be in a letter that we're leasing it away to a school district that's in financial, they're not in a great position either. I
think what we're asking to do is, more or less, in the letter, is going to be to take over the management of the field.
Where's the
Take
public?
over booking, because they're having problems with Chatham, and we feel we need Chatham there to help finance
What
some
if
other
Chatham,
fields.
gets upset then because they can't work it out with the school district? and
That's
they go,
exactly where this is all coming from.
Right.
If Chatham does not feel like a partner, a true partner, they may say, hey, we're getting out of here.
Well,
They
then-
pay.
I know that maintenance falls on the school district under the, and it's a possible lease.
We're $30,000 in debt on that field. We get a $15,000 check from Chatham, so now we're negative $15,000 on that field.
Let's open the concession stand. Start making money on that.
Who's be responsible for turning the lights off at night then if the school district takes it over? Because didn't the borough hire 2 people to go down there to take care of the field a while back? For lights and locking
They
out?
would have to hire somebody.
Who turns the lights off now at night?
We do, we schedule it.
You can put them on a timer.
They're on the timer, we schedule it.
I thought we hired 2 people a couple years ago.
We have field marshals that are in charge of that.
So they
Some
would be in
marshals are
charge
mainly
of that?
Donna for, because there was a lot of problems there sometimes with kids, when games were being
I
played.
understand.
They say, hey, you can't be playing.
Yeah.
What good does it do us to have this field if we can't have people come on here because Steel Valley tells us that we have
Joe.
to use it?
Can I interject for 1 minute?
Sure.
I would be more than happy to sit down and broker some sort of agreement with them before we offer this to them. I think we need to sit down and hard bargain with the school district and talk to them.
We talked to them, Rick, we talked to them a couple of weeks ago, and a couple of school board members, a couple of councilmen, me, and the superintendent. On that Friday, I got an email that we need to talk about that. That Monday, I got another phone call about, we have preference of this field. Mr. Campbell gave that field to us, this, that, and the other thing. So it came to a point that I said, you know what? I gotta take all these calls on the weekend. Chatham's here, they won't get off at we want to get here, we want to get in here. Now, we shut that field down for both teams. Rule of thumb, Steel Valley has it 3-6, Chatham has it 6-9. If there's games, Harvey and I met with both teams last year and said, okay, we want you guys to be able to work it out. Chatham has games that they set up with the NCAA. They might have a team from Albany that's coming into our field. And then we're gonna call them on Friday and say, hey, Steel Valley's on the field, you gotta leave.
No, we're not gonna do that.
Right.
See, Mayor, this is the problem, what it is. Chatham plays all their games Saturdays and Sundays, like double headers. Now, the high school mostly play Monday to Friday, you know, maybe a Saturday or rain out or something. What the problem is when Chatham's here, they get an away game, we'll say in Valley, and Valley has a regular grass field, which rain. Well, Chatham's here, they say, come down here. We got the turf field, you can play here. No, they come down and throw Chatham off.
Well, that's not right.
I think, again,
See, the public doesn't know that.
I think that I would be more than happy
The
to
school
work
board meeting Thursday.
in Munhall's defense
Right.
and represent us and speak to him if you want me to.
Yeah.
I think we need a little firmer hand with Steel Valley.
Your wife is right about the financial. They don't want that field either. Financially wise, they can't afford to do it. You know that too. All we're trying to do is just communicate better.
I understand that.
Right.
Well, if we give it to them, say we go ahead and we give them this space, and they lease it. Now what the heck, they may lease it to who the hell knows who's gonna come there. We may get worse situations.
You have a fence out there that Steel Valley won because you couldn't play playoff games here because it was too far, you know.
The outfield.
The outfield was too far out. I mean, all these hit the ball first. So who bought the fence for $15,000? Chatham.
I know they did.
I mean,
Well, we pay $6,000, $5,600 just to condition the field once a year. We pay what did we pay, for the rubber last week? You get these big bags, you go through about
$3,000.
6, 7, 2,000 apiece, right? And yeah.
Is the school district aware of that? Are they aware of these costs?
Sure.
Yes.
Then I don't understand why they're
I
bargaining.
went to a
you
school
know?
district meeting before this field was even open, with some of the council members, I think Rick was on
You and
council.
I were there.
You were there,
And
and
you
I
were-
said,
you
hey,
were treated
I'm
very
looking toward,
ignorantly,
I'm
Bob.
looking towards the
I would have
future.
been irate the way they treated you there.
Thank you.
I was
But-
irate.
But I told him, I said, I'm looking towards the future. Cost estimates in 10 years, we're gonna need $1 million to take care of the turf on this field and update this field. You know, can you help us? You know, can we agree to something that we both put something away? Well, our lease says we get it for free, and, we don't ask you for money for, Campbell Field. Remember those money answers? We don't ask you for anything for Campbell Field, and everybody uses Campbell Field. So, no.
We don't use it.
No, I don't, I would have given for a football game to watch a game. But that was the response we got. I said, please help us out. Lighting, the field's gonna be repaired in a few years, our light bills are gonna be higher because we're gonna be running lights there till 9, 10 o'clock at night. You know, and I said, can you guys help us out? You know, we put some money aside. I know your field's free, you know, we're not charging you to use the field, but can you help us get some money? Or at least get some money, put away some money for 10 years from now when we need to get $1 million for
Well, as a
the field, and it
resident-
fell on deaf ears.
As a resident that lives right there, I mean, that's my backyard. I'm concerned that with these costs, you give this long-term lease to the school district, they get a snit fit with Chatham, Chatham says, well, see ya, and then this thing doesn't get maintained.
Well, let me explain something to you. That's where it's going anyways. Because Chatham's not gonna play second fiddle when they gotta come. We need to come to an agreement that this is both of their fields and they use it together. We're not getting that cooperation with the school district, but that's exactly what's gonna happen. When they tell them at the last minute, they gotta go and use the field, when they're using the field, and they have a double header, they gotta find another field they gotta use.
You know, the turf,
So how does this solve
the turf field that you're talking about, Norwood just redid their, Ben Trafford redid their, for a football field, right? $800,000 to put the turf on. $800,000 for a turf, for a football field. There's 3 football fields out there,
No.
because it's all turf.
Yeah, that.
So I don't know where the money's coming from.
I think that what you're trying to say is Steel Valley's blocking our opportunity to build revenue on the field, correct?
Well,
And you need to build revenue to put it into the maintenance for the future.
That's all we're looking for.
So,
Yeah.
that's what you're saying, they're blocking.
If they feel that they're good, who knows what's gonna happen down the road, you know, who knows, they might say, this is our field, and hey,
But
they
they're doing
want,
that now.
they wanna put in, Chatham signs that this is their field and everything, so people, it looks like it's their field as well. They don't feel comfortable, they don't wanna spend the money, I told them, give me some drawings so I can take it to council to get this approved, if you wanna put some signage up, what kind, what size. They even talked about putting a Chatham baseball, Chatham softball, Cougars, and then they were gonna make the exact same sign for the borough of Munhall. So if they put them on the fence, both signs would be the exact same size and the same look. And it never happened, because they're not gonna put the money in there until they realize that we got a long-term agreement, and this is when they use it, and they can be on the field.
But that was my question. You need to take your revenue on the field to replace it 8 years down the road, which is probably gonna cost $2.5 million.
Every bit.
So the school district is preventing us from making the revenue we need to make to maintain the fields.
How many mounds have we put in? 2, 3. And what much, and how much?
Probably about 1,300 apiece.
We put 3 mounds in it. We have, you people have to pay that. All I want to do, my thing is, if you notice the last meeting we had when we voted for that rubber stuff to go down the field, I voted no. Because all I'm asking is for pay half. We pay half, they pay half, just for the maintenance. They're not, we gotta do all the maintenance. It's gonna hit you in the long run.
If it's that big, they can't play 2 games?
No. They can't even play with, if the women's softball on one field and baseball's on the other, they can practice at the same time, but they can't, they can't interfere with each other.
I think it's, and I think that's NCAA and WPIL rules.
Yeah.
I think that's, the WPIL says you can't have 2, a girls softball game at this end and a boys baseball game at this end, that's the rules of WPIL. Can you want to question on?
Yeah, so maybe I'm just dumb, but I'm still lost on how the lease solves them to not fighting. It sounds to me like it just pulls us out of it and lets them handle it among themselves. Is that what the lease is? Huh?
Hands them the maintenance bill.
Well, it does, yeah, so that's a completely separate issue. I'm talking about the actual lease though, right? The lease gives them, the school, the high school, decision-making power about what they do with the field. So you're basically letting the 2 kids on the playground fight, and the winner.
But there won't be a fight. One team's leaving, so they're not gonna fight.
So Chatham's leaving?
We would tell them, yeah, we would ask the valley in the lease to let them have until September 2020, so they don't have to find a place to go.
That doesn't
It's not working.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand the budget issue, but it doesn't sound like that's not the right thing to do to Chatham either, who's put money into it and invested in the community. It sounds to me like, at the very least, there needs to be some more oversight and more discussion before there's any type of vote. And if the mayor is willing to involve himself in that and provide some oversight, it sounds to me like a lot of people who've been here all the time have no idea. So if there's the motion to just talk about the lease, or is the motion to actually send the lease?
Send a letter to talk.
I'm sorry?
We just met with them last week, as I said before. We just met.
Did the mayor know you were meeting with them?
But what is the lease, what is the motion to send them a lease? Do you have terms of lease in the motion?
It sends a letter. It may start some conversations up between the borough and the school district on this. I think one of the things is they're looking to set some conversations.
Do you need a motion?
I'm sorry. The first thing about this agreement that we have with the school district is who we're supposed to negotiate with. We're supposed to negotiate with the superintendent.
Correct.
And if you don't negotiate with anyone else, that's who you want to talk to. Don't talk to anyone else, sit down and talk to him. No one else. And say, let's manage this out. And he's for throwing Chatham off the field?
I got a call 2 days later, and I got an email, 2 days later, I got a call the next day, and then I got a call from a parent on the team that they sent an email saying, unfortunately, we can't have a home game on our field due to the fact that the borough won't allow us. Now that's petty.
Absolutely, it's petty.
But Chatham's been using our field for how long? And all of a sudden it's a problem?
It's been a problem since day one.
It has been a problem since
Right,
day
since day
one.
one.
But I thought you had a much stronger stance with them, and it was fine.
what are you gonna do? I mean, they call you up all the time and say, hey, we're using that field. Last year, when Chatham had a double header, now Steel Valley had to go in at noon. They had to schedule their game at noon, right in the middle of the day, for them to do it.
They don't have to.
No.
That's ridiculous.
And Chatham Rick was, well, hold it, we don't wanna rock any boats, because we really wanna use this field. You know, now we make them a bigger partner, we may be able to get more money from them, I'm sure we
Absolutely
could.
we could.
And we could be a better partner.
At all?
Huh?
Is Chatham at all, is there any representative in this? Because
They
we
have
don't
no-
know what's going on, so,
What say so would they have?
huh?
What say so would Chatham have?
Oh, I don't know about say so, but it sounds to me like they maybe earned a seat at the table to talk about,
They don't.
they don't? I mean,
Sort of intended.
We had
it
them
sounds to me like they've invested in the community.
We had 'em
We had them all
told
at the
you.
table last year. We had the softball coach from Chatham, the baseball coach from
No,
Chatham.
no,
and
you
we
gotta,
all-
you guys can't have a softball coach, right? You gotta have
No,
somebody
you're
from the
wrong.
administrative.
No,
I'm
and
wrong.
the AD was there too.
Okay,
No, he wasn't
that's what I
there.
wanna
You had
hear.
the superintendent.
Well, he should be there, and
He
I'm not
chose
wrong
not
about
to.
that.
He chose not to be there because he was sending the coaches. That
Okay.
was his choice.
All right.
Talking about the high school last year.
Yeah, the athletic director wasn't there, the banner and.
Yeah,
It this sounds like some funny business.
Can I just say that any other borough or municipality, can you imagine having Westfield in your borough and wanting to, instead of spending the time to work out these little problems, offering it to the school district to just get rid of it, to take it away? There are
Lori,
so many.
we do that with Troutman and Woodhill.
This isn't Troutman.
Yeah, well, I mean,
This
that's
isn't
normal
Woodhill,
contract.
and this is not Little League.
Yeah, but it's normal practice
No.
for a borough or anything to lease it to an organization.
You guys, there's a way to do this. There are so many colleges that would love, is there a bidding process every so often to see if we're competitive in what Chatham is paying compared to other colleges? Do we go through a review every 2 or 3 years to see if the borough is getting the optimum rental for Westfield for when they use it? And if they rent it, and if they sign something, the school district can't just come in at the last minute and take away their
They
money.
can't.
This is-
They can't.
No, they can't.
We're again trying to.
They
That's what we're trying to do.
that, that's on
We're
you.
trying to get it, something to the table to say, this is the way we're gonna work. It didn't work last year when we told them it was gonna, this is what's gonna happen. Ari and I even met with them and said, guys, we want you to be able to work it out. Roll of thumb, 3 to 6, 6 to 9. Chatham has it on Saturday. It didn't work that well. We also said, if you're gonna use your, obviously Steel Valley plays their games after 3 o'clock, like 4 o'clock. So when they have those, Chatham knows that they're gonna be there, they adjust their schedule accordingly. So we had an instance where Chatham was playing away, Steel Valley was playing away. Steel Valley and Chatham both got rained out. Chatham came with their 6 to 9 slot. Steel Valley came to their 6 to 9 slot, told them they have to leave because they came, they have first preference. Chatham shouldn't have been there, they should have been playing away. Steel Valley should have been playing away too. They would have never came there if they didn't get rained out.
First of all, I'm almost positive the school district is never gonna accept this offer. Let's sit down. This is my maybe to bring them to the table, like Joe said, or let's just sit down and talk and one more time.
Before you offer this, I would like to be included in the conversation, and be there, because this is unacceptable. And I agree with you 100%, Joe. This is unacceptable. We have to just set it in stone. This is what it's gonna be, and you can't just come in here and bully someone off the field.
I asked them to send me an email, did I not? And say, send me an email, I'm gonna send you a schedule, give me any information back that you might wanna put into agreement. I didn't get a response, thank you for the email that I sent.
Well, that's good.
This isn't gonna lessen your problem, Joe, because then if you give them a lease, then the borough technically becomes a landlord. Then you gotta enforce the lease when they don't, do whatever.
I can understand that would be a good point, if we were making money on this field. We're not making money on this.
Well, maybe we need to look at how we can.
Right, and like opening the concession stand and and when we have these baseball tournaments down there, these young kids there, we should be having a
Maybe we
concession
need a
stand.
committee.
Don't forget now, when we did that meeting, before they even did this field, right? With Joe Ducar and the rest of them, right?
Yeah.
We were told Don't think you're gonna use that for a cash cow and make all kind of money on this. This is strictly steel balance. That's what we were told.
But we have to be able to.
And that's what bring up to mind, they bring it up to me all the time. But Mr. Campbell built this
That's
for us.
that's not the intention though. The
Right.
intention is for them kids to use the field, and we don't harbor that. We want them to use the field.
Right.
But you have to have a schedule.
Right.
The
You
contract,
can't have an agreement and say, this is my field and I'm gonna come down and use it whenever I want to.
Would
You can't do
would
that.
you agree that if Chatham put on the schedule that they're gonna use September 28th as a tournament day, that's a good reason to be on the schedule, that Still Valley would have to move their day at another time?
Absolutely. That's what they.
An email went back out and said, all we're looking for is a little time on that. Well, we were gonna have a team, and as Dave will tell you, even though it's for the baseball team and everyone on the baseball team, you know as well as I know, that in high school baseball is not actually a sanctioned sport. It's a pickup game between with other teams, right? There's no league, there's no.
Like fall ball.
And
Fall ball
you're
is
not
not
about
my
fall ball, you're not talking
Fall ball is
about
my
spring
favorite.
things. They got fall ball.
You gotta involve Chatham's athletic director.
They got fall, yeah.
He or she will be involved if we get the right message.
They have fall ball out
The
there
thing
now.
is, they know,
They
the
charge $60.
interpretation.
Yeah, but there's a lot of things Steel
It's
Valley
different.
can gain from the involvement of a collegiate university like Chatham if we get them in the same room. I can't imagine that they wouldn't, knowing that what we're talking about here, that they wouldn't involve themselves in a meeting.
The problem is the
We didn't say he
interpretation.
didn't involve it.
Well, you said the athletic director
He
didn't
wasn't
show up.
there because the
So I think
baseball, the baseball team in college, baseball teams and softball teams run the program. They were both at the table.
You know,
Sounds like it's worth a shot
you know what,
again.
Eric, I'm willing to be sitting with you on this negotiation.
We need to do
And
that.
let's talk to them one time. I mean, first of all, this letter, they're not gonna say, ooh, we want this, we're
I
gonna
know,
take it.
I know.
They're not, they know, we know that we're not. Let's sit down and talk to them one more time. This letter is, they're gonna know about this letter now. As soon as we leave this meeting tonight, somebody on the school board is gonna get a phone call. Hey, here's what they're trying to do. They know about this right now. We made thanks to them. They may know about it right now. But let's talk and let's move on. I'm willing to table this issue, take it off right now. I'm willing to take it off. Last comment.
Would you consider
What is?
a source of income, even though our grant writer, would you consider putting in for grant money to help maintain that?
They'll never get it.
Why do you say that?
They're not gonna give you money to pay the bills.
they won't.
They're not gonna give you, every high school in western Pennsylvania would be filling grants right now to pay for their field. Pay
But
for
they
this.
would, look, Carnegie Library put in money to do all their seats. It's the same thing, it's
Not
on
really.
maintenance.
It's the same thing as paying an electric bill is the same as that.
I wouldn't say that's the same thing.
Paying an electric bill or buying a rubber for a bill,
For
it's the
instance,
same
West
thing as
Mifflin just
redoing
built
it.
elaborate scoreboard up. That didn't come from no grant, that's all the taxpayers. Move on. Okay, question on agenda items.
I'm sorry, I'm going back to the same item. The only thing with the grant, this is, if I understand correctly, this is one of the last fields that's still around from the Negro Leagues. I would think that might be a reason that you might be able to get a grant. I don't know.
No more. No more. Not when you get all this thing.
We have a grant writer. Joe can propose that question to the grant writer.
I'm not gonna propose a grant money to pay the electric bill, pay the gas bill, and put.
I'm not saying
No,
that.
what would we ask you to say? What would we ask you to do?
Jeez Louise.
What you want to propose to them is say, not for the bills, but for upkeep of this historic field.
Joe, we're gonna talk about it.
Oh, yeah, go figure. I knew that right away. What do you say to lose if we don't get a grant?
I mean, I
You
don't
can say,
think there's any
you
grant.
can say, well, you told us so, right? I'm talking to the gentleman in the white shirt. You can say you told us so.
I thought they said move on.
Okay, yes, sir.
Any more questions on agenda items?
Dawn, you got any more?
That's your thing, anything else, I'll forget my blood pressure notes.
That's why I said thank you and sat down.
About you, I'd have got out the door.
Okay.
Afraid of.
Let's see, no more comments on agenda items. Let's move on for items of consideration.
Motion to accept travelers' payments of $23,375 for a PA American Water, Washington Street water break.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Malice, second by Councilman Petrusi. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays?
Motion to advertise ordinance 1597, an ordinance amending the code of ordinances, providing an additional meaning for enforcing its various ordinances, providing for the imposition of fines.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Bowden. Second by Councilman Stein? Sure. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. No donation.
Approved payments for MMO, police defined benefits, $346,052. Munhall retirement defined benefits, $137,191. And the Munhall retirement defined contribution, $44,790.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Stein. Second by Councilman Ingalls. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
Motion to authorize Solicitor Vaskovic to move forward with process for unused borough property.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Ballas, second by Councilman Bowden. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? No nays, motion carries.
Motion to begin RFP process for towing.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Stein, second by Councilman Bowden. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to advertise ordinance for foreclosures, vacant property, and rental ordinances. This is regarding pro-jam.
Motion. Motion by Councilman Petrusi. Second by Councilman Ingalls. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
You're taking 7 off.
We're taking 7 off?
I want to take 7 off. I mean, if someone wanted to make a motion, I don't think they could, but I recommend we take it off.
We're gonna take it off, we take it off.
Take it off.
We take it off.
Motion to authorize purchase 2 mobile 3-cam at the cost of $34,880 to be purchased from asset forfeiture funds.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Ingalls.
Second.
Second by Councilman Bowden. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays?
Mr. President,
Yes.
I'd like to have just a question on this. I took it off, but make sure we send them a letter to make one, please.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna make a phone call too, Councilman.
That's
I'm
fine.
gonna call the
Just make sure.
superintendent. Send a letter as well, in writing,
Good
will
idea.
be good. And I'll sign it as well.
You want it, I'll get the letter together, you can sign it and send. We
Absolutely.
email it to them and then.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll do that.
Thank you.
Want me to sign it too? I'll sign it. Okay. We didn't vote on this yet, the mobile cam, right?
Yeah, we did.
Yes, we did.
We have a motion and a second, I don't have a vote.
I didn't vote yet.
Oh.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? Motion carries unanimously.
Here we go.
Motion to approve a handicap sign to be placed at 255 East Larkspur per approval by Sergeant Williams and Chief Campbell.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Ballas, second by Councilman Petrusi. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries unanimously.
Motion to approve a handicap sign for 206 East Larkspur as approved by Sergeant Williams and Chief Campbell.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Petrusi, second by Councilman Ballas. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
They'll put you over the limit code for this year?
Is this a record?
What did I tell them I need 2 more?
Like I said, I talked to every municipality
Keep
around
breaking our own
us.
record.
They get a handful of requests a year, a handful. We get a half a dozen a month, every month for the past 15 years. You're gonna need a permit to not be handicapped.
We didn't vote on this yet, right? We have a motion and a second?
No, you
We
do.
did.
Everybody voted.
Okay.
Motion to approve the August 21st, 2019 minutes.
Second.
Motion Councilman Godin, second by Councilman Stein. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
Motion to pay bills for the period of August 13, 2019 through September 16, 2019 summarized as follows: $207,343.24.
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Councilman Ingles, second by Councilman Petruzzi. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays?
Motion to approve payroll for the period of August 8th and August 22nd, total being $268,927.90.
Motion.
Second. Motion Councilman Ballas, second by Councilman Petruzzi. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Nays? Motion carries.
Well,
Additional, yes.
I would like to, I don't know about, we might have to add a motion or not, but we got all the figures tonight from Fields, from TKA. You got 16 million for here, 5 million for there. We've been back and forth, back and forth. We got the numbers everybody wanted to hear. I'd like to put a motion on the floor. We either go tonight with either 1600 West Street or 1860 West Street.
I'd like to talk about that for a second.
Why get the motion?
No, you made a commitment to us that we would get to see the plan that you're talking about before you voted, right? That happened tonight, on this very same thing you're talking about? Am I losing my mind? The guy stood up here with all the plans.
Yeah.
You told me that.
Any councilman can make a motion.
Yeah, right, I'm just making sure what he's saying is complete opposite of what you're saying.
Any councilman can make a motion. I did say earlier, we have the plans.
Right, okay.
Were you here tonight?
I was here tonight, but I didn't read the report, and I wanted to read the report.
Well, he told you everything. I showed you floor by floor, this building here. And already, we've been waiting for a number. Have we not, Mayor?
We have.
finally got the number. 16 million here, 5 million there.
All right,
All I
so we're
want to
not
know
gonna
is
get to
move
read the
forward.
report.
We're either
before
gonna
you
make
guys
a
do it, okay?
decision tonight of staying here or over there.
We don't have to make a decision.
Yes, we do.
No, we don't.
Well, that's my motion, that's my motion.
First thing.
I'll second that motion.
Question on the
Question
motion?
on the motion.
Now you're right.
Go ahead, ma'am.
One thing, I don't know why the decision has to be made tonight, but there's also another alternative.
That's right.
Homestead built a borough building with grants. Did anybody look into that?
No.
We can't get grant money. I have talked to Jay Costa about getting grant money to do this.
They
Either
do.
one, either one.
So what, to fix the repair or build a whole new building altogether?
Whatever we have, we don't know what we're doing yet to do a grant to say that this is the scope of the project. I
Okay?
talked to Senator Costa on Friday, and I said, I'm getting a call. We're gonna be doing something.
Well, we already found one thing out tonight. We can't put a borough building down the waterfront because that property is contaminated.
Exactly.
You haven't read the report.
It's also not what I said.
We were gonna put a park there, and look how many other people built down there. So
They
what
built a whole-
did they build
built a
on?
whole
Storage
complete shopping
shed.
center.
No, we have a motion, we have a motion before.
I just think-
We would just stay on that, Donna,
Okay, but
rather
I
than
just
jumping
think-
all over
I
the
just
place.
think
There's
we
a motion
should,
and a second on the floor.
I just think the
It puts
decision
up on
should
that
be
motion.
made tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have
It's
several
on that
questions.
motion, though.
I have a question on the motion.
Yeah, I agree. Good.
So, Mr. Ingles,
Yes, sir.
you believe that the borough building is gonna cost $12 million? I don't, okay? I don't believe that that building is gonna cost $5 million over there. It's gonna be $8 million by the time you're done over there.
So why did we hire this?
I don't know, you should have talked to me.
I know, I understand.
Right, that's what you're saying, okay? So I don't think that you need to make a vote on this tonight because you haven't even gotten to read the reports or anything. Or we haven't even looked at any, one discussion in 40 minutes, and you're gonna spend $5 million? Two reports from 2 hours. 2 hours you sat and listened to this stuff, and you're gonna make a $7 million decision? Come on. We need to look at this and discuss this, what could be done alternatively. Do we need to do everything in that building, in this building? No. We don't need to have everything in that building, in this building.
Here, here.
We don't have to put in another addition, a second-story addition over here. There are things that can be looked at and discussed and say, maybe we can do this a little bit differently, which you haven't done yet, Mr. Ingles. Have you? No. We looked at some drawing from an architect who's had one person look at it and they drew it out. No one has had a discussion here amongst ourselves at all about why do we have to do it this way? Can we change something one way? Can we move something here? Can we take this away? Can we put this there? Not a word has been discussed about it. We had a presentation. That doesn't mean we had a discussion. I didn't get to talk about anything about what he said. I took what he said, I read it, I have the plans, I looked at it. There's a lot to be said. Not just ram it down our throats every time.
We've been discussing this for 3 years.
No, we haven't been discussing it for 3 years. Maybe you have.
No, you
But
haven't.
you haven't had
You're the one
a
that-
drawing
you're the
in
one
front
that
of
said
you.
take them buildings.
Mr. Ingles,
You're the one
I
that
have the
said take them
floor.
buildings.
You don't have a discussion, you don't look at a drawing and say, this is what I propose, and you don't have a discussion about it. You just voted on it. You sit down and you say, hey, maybe we can change this. Maybe we can do something here. Maybe we should build another building somewhere else. But you don't want to do that. I don't know what you guys got in plans for that building over there. You rushed to go there. You should have never took the building to start with. You really want to go rematch all this again? $5 million? You'll be $10 million by the time you're done with that whole building over there.
You never said take them buildings. In fact, you said take all
Bullshit.
four.
Listen, don't put my words in
You
my
didn't
mouth.
say that. You never said
Don't put words in my mouth.
3 years ago, you never said take all 4 buildings.
I did, and I said, let's look at the building.
But you said
And
take
you
all
never walked over and looked at the building.
I was in the one
I
building.
walked in that
I was in the one
building.
building.
Excuse me.
Okay.
You want to let me speak?
Sure.
Because I'm about fed up with being interrupted by people. All right? Snicker, snicker. All right? So, how do you go from sitting here and sit here for 45 minutes to an hour and the same discussion with them drawings over there and not have a reasonable discussion and say, hey, we can't afford either one of these maybe. Maybe we should build another building. Well, you just heard them. You could build a brand new building for $3.5 million or $4 million. So I think you guys are jumping the gun if you want to stand up and say, let's vote on it right now tonight. And if that's what you want to do, you guys go right ahead. But you're jumping the gun way too quickly to do that. There has to be discussion and look at, can we do it cheaper? Can we do a different building? Can we look somewhere else? Do we really want to go over to that monstrosity of a borough building? You want to call that a borough building? I call it a death place over there. People died over there. You want to move over into there? Go right ahead, but I don't want to move over into there. So now if you guys want to vote on that tonight, you go right ahead. But I think you're rushing your decisions big time.
Think about the taxpayers. who you
The
represent.
people don't want over there.
We want to see the report that guy just talked about.
There's a motion, I'll take question on a motion.
I have a question on the motion. When he was talking about the other building, we had a lot of questions about if you move over there, what happens to the fire department in this building? There was never an answer on that. So he said the largest part of the cost of remodeling this building was the waterproofing and everything. So if the fire department stays here, you're still gonna have to do that on this building. So unless you have a plan for what you're gonna do with the fire department, I don't think you can, that's gonna be part of the cost of going over there.
And there's other costs that were involved over there that they're not talking about. Parking lots, all kinds of other stuff that's not in his numbers. His number was escalated more to $5 million last time he gave his proposals here. I know it was.
His numbers were on the building, not anything
else, not any of the other floors. Way more money than you're gonna ever think about going over there. And look where you're gonna be.
Okay, go ahead.
Mark Walker, Somerville. I was asbestos certified at one time, and there's certain parts of remediation that can be left alone, can be put on hold, can be done in certain steps. So, I mean, there's different expenses that can be stretched out over time or done at one time too, within the whole process of construction.
Sure, please, Jason.
So when we took that building, our engineer gave us estimates of roughly 3 million, 9 million, making it very clear that they were rough estimates. He's not an expert. People balked at that, said those numbers sound Trump, they sound inflated, we're not pursuing it. So we hired a very reputable company, PKA, to come in and do an assessment of that building. He presented, it was around 5 million. Immediately there was grumbling from Pratt. Of course, we knew that number was wrong. Okay, so then we gave them to do exactly the same thing. Apples to apples, same outside companies that came in, same cost per square footage. He comes in, gives 16 million. Now you guys take exception to that. I'd like to point out something. Shortly before the primary election, there was an ad put in the Valley Mirror that was a lie and very inappropriate that accused council of pursuing a $9 million bond, and that if you as residents did not want to have another Penn Hills on your hands, vote out the incumbents. Well, I agree. We don't want 9 million. You're asking for 16 million, 15, 16 million. I'm not pursuing that. That is another Penn Hills, and that's a bad idea.
We just
No,
found that out
that's
tonight,
not the truth.
Jason.
And that wasn't a lie.
Yes, it was.
We were deceived. We were applied for $9 million
We
bond.
never applied for a bond.
Well, you did. It's in there. I saw it.
You're continuing to lie. But go
Oh, I'm
ahead.
continuing to lie. Don't call me a liar.
I don't have to.
I know.
You're doing it.
You are.
We didn't pursue a bond.
You did apply for a bond. I saw the application.
No, you didn't.
Mr. President.
I did.
No application, there was never an
It wasn't
application.
the thing just to see what our borrowing power was.
Yes.
Was that what it was?
Yes, to see what the
It
cost would be
wasn't
to the borough.
applying,
That's all it was.
the checking.
Exploratory.
Irregardless, the question of the matter is, can we afford a $5 million, an $8 million project there?
No, we can afford a $4.5 million.
Oh, okay.
Didn't we just go through a half an hour trying to decide who was gonna pay for Westfield, and obviously it ends up on our shoulders, the taxpayers. Now we're gonna pay for Westfield, and we're also gonna do this building. Right now, we're in the original borough building, and we're all here. There's nothing over there right now. Nothing. Did we ever think of putting those places up for sale? That was given to us because Turtle Creek Mental Health, whatever, didn't want the buildings. Now we're stuck with it. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna spend this money. There's something wrong with this picture.
We don't have to spend this money.
There's something wrong with this
And
picture.
we can fix our borough building up.
Who's gonna pay for that building, who's gonna pay for it?
And it's
The
not gonna
taxpayer,
cost
us.
$12 million.
And I'm gonna tell you what, I went door to door and I talked to people, Jason, and I didn't run into one person other than the council who was interested in doing that building over there. Everybody that I spoke to said, why? We love our borough building. But you're making a statement saying, we're gonna do it. You're gonna make a motion, we're gonna do it. You're spending money that you don't have and you're spending my money.
Everyone I talk to thinks the move's a great idea.
Really?
So,
Where are they?
I went
Where are they?
5,000 doors, nobody wanted to move
$5
here
million
and
to
over there.
16 million?
yeah.
Nobody.
That 5's gonna turn into 8, it's at 16.
Do we have to do it?
Don't have to do
Yeah, hold on,
everything.
Has to be one person at a time. The question on the motions have to be one at a time. We can take question on motion, but we can't all be talking at the same time. So one meeting.
We don't have to do this right now. And I'll tell you what, I agree with this gentleman here. We're supposed to be getting the information and stuff, and all of a sudden now we're making a motion to go ahead and do it?
You saw him say that. We were gonna get to look at it first, and you
Absolutely.
made that motion. You did. Even though that commitment was made to me. That's ridiculous. Here's the other thing. Jay Costa's not a grant writer. I don't know why we're talking to him about grants. Does he have some kind of special expertise? Why didn't we actually have a grant writer look at this and apply?
We have
We had a grant writer.
So we did,
He's in
and then we
prison.
got denied. Oh, we had a grant writer that was in prison?
Well, he stole money.
Sir, just to let you know, to answer your question, you don't go out there and ask for money. We just have money. You have to have a project, a scope, to go out there and fill out certain documentation, certain grants for certain things. Right now, we have money that we're looking to get. I think we applied for $400,000 for parks. We can't get that money and use it for anything else but for parks. That's how the process works.
Okay.
And to ask you about Senator Costa, he's the one that gives the money. So you go to him to ask him what he can do and help us with, what does he have?
So it doesn't make sense to talk to somebody who writes grants and to find out, what you're saying is that you just went to Jay and that's the most
I have
reputable.
talked to them for a year. What am I gonna tell them? hey, we got a building, we need to do this, build a new one. We don't know what we're doing. Until they vote and they make a decision, I don't even know what to ask for.
So what was the discussion like with Jay then, if we don't know what we're doing? How is he able to give us a fair determination about what we should and should not expect? Based on the same reasoning you just said right there, right? I mean, if we can't find out without writing the grant, because we don't have the information, then why would Jay be able to give us indication either way? I'm just curious.
I have no idea what you're even asking.
Wow, I think basically what I'm saying is you're seeking expertise from Jay, right? About whether we could or could not get a grant.
No.
No?
General conversation, no expertise.
Okay, so general conversation with Jay and you came to the determination that we wouldn't get a grant based on what he said.
I didn't say that at all. I just told him that
So we don't know if we would get a grant?
Okay,
then?
here's the thing. Are we looking to get a state-of-the-art municipal building, either over there or here? Have we been talking about this for 3 years? Did we just spend money to have an architect to come in here to give us what it would cost? Yes. So council's gonna make a decision whether they wanna do this or they wanna do that. Once we have that, then we go to the bond companies and say, okay, this is what we're looking to do. This is what we're gonna need. And then you go to Jay and say, and us and different people and say, okay, the county, what can we do? How can we get some money? What can we apply for? And then we ask them for their help. And then that's how the process
So is it
works.
reasonable to say that we would be equally qualified to apply for a grant in either situation, right? And that's a moot point,
Sure.
right? Okay.
Well, we can't. That's-
Okay, Dave?
I question why we would act right now, today, whenever the Willis Center has sat vacant for 15 years. I mean, what makes today, September 18th, 2019, so important
'Cause we got a number
to
now.
take that building? Who cares about the numbers? We need to see all the information, not just the numbers. We need to have everything so we can discuss. I mean, this is a multi-million-dollar issue in a town full of residents that care about the town. And all the doors that I knocked on, nobody wanted to move to the Willis Center. I mean, I would say it was maybe 5 people. That was it. 5 people wanted to take the Willis Center. The rest were for this building here, for this town, and for a plan, a 5-year plan. I mean, you can pay attention to me if you want or not, but I'm just saying that that building sat vacant for 15 years.
I did come, and I did walk around to a heck of a lot of people before the election. And I asked them how they felt about this. There's so many people, they don't even know this is all up, because they don't think. And I'm just saying, we did vote you in, but that doesn't mean you're God. You're representing us, the taxpayers. I really can't believe, Mr. Ingles, I can't believe you put it up. I make a motion.
Let's make a motion. I make a motion, we vote them all out.
I'm just
fed up.
I
saying.
take offense to that.
I'm just
As a
saying.
person, I take offense to that, Mayor.
I take offense to
I
it too.
haven't even voted, and I haven't even made a statement because I'm letting everybody speak. I'm gonna make a statement now, okay? And everybody listen, I wish the mayor was there to hear it. Can you ask him to come back in?
Bob,
No, I wanna
I'm
make
just saying
a
to
statement.
you,
I do wanna make a
I
statement,
do have
because
to-
vote them all out, I just don't like hearing that type of thing. But I wish he was here to hear my statement.
I just think, Joe, I just think, okay, I have the floor. When I'm done, please say what you just said into the microphone so everybody can hear. This is part of our problem. I have asked many times in the, let's say, 18 months that I have been attending here, and I do have the courage to stand up there and ask the same questions about the cameras, about the microphones, about the paint. And you know what? It amazes me that nobody writes anything down to say, well, maybe I'll go back, or maybe I'll read the minutes. Okay, but I'm just saying, you represent the taxpayers. before the election, we heard that word transparency, and we want to represent you, and we want you to be happy. I really think you need to think about what everything is being said. We need a town meeting and put it on all of the fire hall things. Town meeting regarding the fire hall. Let's see how many people come on. And let's see who's saying what. Jason, you're saying you talk to people who want them, who want Willis. And I'm telling you, Kevin's telling you, Jason, I don't know a lot of people, I went to work for work. There's a lot of people who don't. We don't have to react on this right now. If we waited this long, we can wait another, be it 6 months or a year.
Let me just make my comment I wanted to make earlier. I've been holding it off and letting everybody discuss a little bit and talk, hash this out. PKA, I respect that man, I respect this company. The numbers, I believe, are pretty good. Am I ready to vote on this tonight? I'm gonna tell you no. How many people did I surprise with that one, didn't I?
Yeah.
Because I thought, hey, let's leave this go tonight. Let's hear his feelings talk. Let's hear his spill, and then let me digest it. Give me a month.
Thank you.
Give me some time to think this out. And that's what I wanted to say this whole time here. And I've been waiting to let everybody else speak. So now I know where
You stand. Thank
I
you.
stand. I mean,
But Rob, every single motion, I honestly, I have everyone listen, not for that, and I have your name, who said it, who made the motion, and who seconded it, and we always have 9 yeses. We never have a no.
7.
Or 7. You shocked me, Rob, that you said you would, because if said that, 3 or 4 of you would have said no. All of us probably would have said, oh my God, thank you, Rob.
I'm my own person. Why would I shock anybody?
I just have a question.
Please, on the motion, please, on the motion.
It's on the
Because I'm
motion.
gonna.
No, it is, it's on the motion. I just think that if you guys really want this to happen, it should be more cohesive. We need, as the residents, we need to know what's gonna happen to this building. Is it gonna be demolished? What's gonna happen to the fire department? We're gonna move it, we're gonna build another one. And then combine it all together and bring it all together at one thing and show us. It's also piecemeal right now. It's up in the air. It's not just a matter of saying, yep, bang that gavel, we're going across the street. Like, what happens to this building? What happens to the fire department? If you tear this down, what happens to the land? There's no plan. And I think that's what a lot of people that I talk to have a problem with. It's just not cohesive. It's just a bunch of piecemeal decisions. And that's all I have to say.
You're here.
I know you want to finish this, but I just want to say, to bring a motion like that at this point in the meeting, when the presentation just came out tonight, none of the residents have had a chance to look at the plans, none of the residents have had a chance to read the reports. This is a major decision for this borough. And if you council members, which you often do, just go ahead and take a vote like that after getting this presentation. You've turned your back on the residents, what the residents want, what they expect to see from a responsible, fiscally responsible council. And it just shows the agenda. There's too much talk going on that doesn't occur in public meetings. And to come up and make a motion to vote on this tonight when no one has had the benefit ahead of time of seeing any information, and like Lois said, to figure out what would happen with this building or the Willis Center, it just shows you have your own agenda and you could care less about the residents and about the taxpayers. So go ahead, take your vote. We all know we have legal recourse. If you guys make a fiscally irresponsible decision and you're gonna commit Munhall Borough to tearing down this building, which you don't even tell us, you just come here and vote without any public discussion on what your intentions are, that's on you. Go ahead and make your record.
Think about all the people you could get on support of the move if the report is out there. I mean, realistically, if I read this, you could have me just being the same kind of guy pushing for you guys to vote for it, right? But nobody has that information. I don't think it's unfair and it's not biased to ask for that information to be out to the public.
On the floor, I mean, I can call for a vote. You know,
The single biggest reason for pursuing any update anywhere is for the police. Every single day we delay this, they suffer. So,
Bullshit.
well said, Ed.
Absolutely. You know, everything keeps saying it's, we're doing this for the police, we're doing this for the police. We're, you know, it's not just that side of the building that's falling apart.
Agreed.
It's the whole building.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't want everyone to think that this is being done solely for the police. We're the ones who have, 24/7, we're the ones who live with this daily, and we're the ones who have to deal with the conditions. But it's not just for us.
No, yeah, but I mean, as far as the administration, administration goes.
You just said that.
Administration has plenty of room. They're not looking to make something out of this. We need more room for the force. These guys should be eating their lunch when they're processing drug evidence. So there is a sense of urgency to a degree to get them better accommodations. As far as the other comment about fiscally irresponsible, entertaining $15 million to fix the building because of nostalgia is fiscally irresponsible. Some people don't want to get their hands dirty and make a tough decision. I understand that. I'm okay with it. That's not a good decision.
So how does releasing the
Stein, I'd
report?
like to speak to you about that. So you saw the plans that he presented tonight. Have you seen them before?
Not before today.
No. So you saw those plans, and in an hour, you made a decision on this building, and you made your decision on going over to there from the meeting from prior. Without looking at the plans and saying, maybe we don't have to have all this done to this building. Maybe we could do it fiscally a little bit better. Maybe not have as much here. Maybe we could build another building, a brand new building, instead of spending $8 million across the way over there and not having another building.
$8 million?
Is it 5?
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said. But then he did say that that's not the whole building.
Right, we're not doing the rest of the building.
Okay. Well, you wait and see. We will be doing the rest of the building.
It's on a roll call vote.
Okay, so that I can keep it straight and everything across the board, can you say 1860 for that building, or 1900 for this building, whichever one you choose to vote for?
1860.
For.
What if you're not choosing either way?
You just said abstain. You can say neither.
I can't abstain.
You can say neither.
Just
show name. Just show Okay.
This address is 1900.
Yeah, read back to what, just so I understand. My motion is to move forward with a renovation of either Willis Center or this building. That's it. So, name the buildings, or just say I vote for neither. I'm not ready to move forward. It's one of those three things and do it by roll call. That's the procedure, okay?
Okay. All right, so am I reading the motion again?
No.
Okay. All right, so Councilman Bellis,
1860, Willis Center.
Councilman Ingram,
1860.
Councilman Petruzzi,
1860.
Councilman Stein,
1860.
Councilman Tassan is not here, Councilman Bodadian,
1860.
President Faust.
Neither.
It's good, when people start asking us what's
Shame
going on
on
to
you
our
guys.
building, we'll tell them we don't know.
Shame on you guys.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's unreal.
That report though, right?
That's terrible. That's just terrible.
You're still supposed to see the report?
Wow.
Wow, there's no
Put it on the website. We said we on the website.
Okay, your kids and your grandkids won't have to